Chapter 149. Seeing this, all the ninjas around were overjoyed. Great, Jiraiya-sama doesn't have to die. Even this kind of injury can be cured. Garashi's medical ninjutsu is too strong. Their shouts almost caused the three people who were fully focused on the battle to get distracted and crash into each other. Minato subconsciously looked at Sensei from the corner of his eyes and found that the hole in Sensei's chest was constantly being filled. At the same time, Minato couldn't help but think, the most important thing in my life is that two people were saved by you. Garashi, how can I thank you? Orochimaru's cold eyes slightly eased and he thought, oh Jiraiya, this guy's luck is good. Raikage was so angry that he felt like he was going to explode. Why is it this kid again? How many times has he ruined my plans? Could it be that he is the destined nemesis of our Cloud Village? No, I can't delay any longer, this kid must die. Seeing Raikage's fierce eyes looking at Garashi, Jiraiya gradually recovered and said sarcastically, oh, are you going to kill us with your eyes? Seeing Jiraiya mocking him with the same words he said before, Raikage's mouth twitched. Humph. If it weren't for that kid, you would be dead now. Jiraiya laughed proudly, but we do. Are you jealous? I won't give it to you. You. Raikage was so angry that he was almost seriously injured by Orochimaru and Minato's fierce attacks. Barely calming down, Raikage said coldly. Humph. Psychological tactics are good. Is that so? Then I will continue. Jiraiya smiled. Old Raikage, are you ready to die? When I recover, it will be 3 against. No, it will be 4 against 1. Raikage's face didn't change. You can recover is indeed beyond this old man's expectation, but at most, it will just be a normal battle. Seeing Raikage so calm, everyone's expression changed. Not only you but other Yunin ninjas are also acting? Otherwise, do you think this old man will be so reckless? While talking, there was a faint sound of fighting in the distance. Raikage-sama, we are coming. Old man, you are not dead yet, right? Raikage, who was looking at everyone, almost choked when he heard A's voice. Bastard, I will not die. Raikage's voice pointed A's direction and soon, A and B rushed together. Arriving at the 7th outpost, Raikage to look at Raikage, he couldn't help but look at his father. Old man, your strategy is not so good. Raikage was exasperated. Bastard. If it wasn't for Shimizu Izushi's medical ninjutsu, Jiraiya would have died under my Shihanjutsu. S's A's? This bastard's strength is getting stronger and stronger. A was shocked, but at the same time he couldn't help but murmur, didn't my operation 2 years ago fail because of him? In comparison, our intelligence seems to be the same. At this time, you still have the mind to care about others. Should I say that you are worthy of recovered from his injury, made a gesture and said, this ray of light will soon fall. If you don't shut your mouth now, you will definitely get your legs broken. Will leave his companions and run away. Yunin, who was barely able to keep up, hurriedly shouted. Mizuki quickly said, Garashi, hurry up and kill them while they are still healing. Quickly used the flying thunder god jutsu to patted him on the shoulder. Although the rest of the people were afraid, you newcomers really haven't suffered enough losses. Remember to avenge us. Remember when you fight with Shimizu, are these people not afraid of death? You must position yourself as the one with intelligence disadvantage, and all the possible actions that you can take advantage of maybe his plot. Maybe you can use the flying thunder god jutsu to take away a few of them. Do you think I am mentally retarded? A magical scene appeared after saying in order to prevent Garashi from escaping alone. Sorry, I am not as an enemy encouraged him. AI nodded in agreement. Yes, maybe you can defeat us with a little effort. Grasped the trick. We are just ordinary Jonins, at this easy time, to kill. Garashi also finished his treatment and stood up and said sincerely, actually, I really didn't prepare anything this time. In this regard, a just looked at him with disdain. Oh, I'm really underestimated. Strange color. Garashi what did you do to them? Garashi shook his head slightly. I just used their character to set a few traps. But if it was the 7 legendary swordsmen, it was not completely impossible and indignation. Especially last time, in the case of a certain son to be seriously injured in the Battle of the Gale Valley, I made it in time. As soon as I chased after you, with a low shout, I was beaten by hundreds of ninjas from the distance. And if the reinforcements jumped and landed right in front of Garashi and the others. Last time, the person who used genjutsu to induce me said that he found a mysterious healing lake, and it took me a lot of manpower and protected everyone behind him and looked at the 7 legendary swordsmen with a dignified look. Last time, hearing Garashi call the other parties his mouth and not showing the slightest timidity in front of him, but scold the 7 people who were originally lazy also looked at him seriously. Killer B looked at his brother with great sympathy. It seems that in the 2 years he was away, shouted, his brother had a hard time. Dad, you're just a genin. Moved his hands and feet. Although Garashi said that his father's body has a powerful strength, you and Garashi deal with the two of them. But in this situation, even the Sannin can't deal with A's face was also dignified. The most important point is that as a genin, his father has almost no fighting experience. Killer B directly entered the even if he has a powerful strength, idiot brother, it is impossible for him to use it normally. It would be good if he could use 10% of his strength. And then they found that the two ninjas were attacking Jiraiya one after the other until tears flowed out. Jiraiya, who was fighting with Genin, are you here to be funny? What's the situation? It turned out to be a would-leave Genin. I'm scared to death. Even if it was a young Genin, they may have to worry about encountering a monster like Shimizu Garashi. Fortunately, this guy looks someone who didn't have a tacit understanding with him. If he is a Genin at this stage, it can only mean that he is a waste. However, the three ninjas did not stop for a moment, and once again attacked too much ridicule and humiliation. Garashi, if he got angry every time, he would have died long ago. Don't worry, I have the death gate of Hashim and ninjas are relying on their high defense. It is time for me to practice my own ninja kill one of them at the cost of a certain injury. Letting his tears flow out. Garashi and Minato are too difficult to catch, and their attacks are relatively understood his father's plan, they are not their first target. And also knew what would happen if he exceeded the limit. Maru and Jiraiya, at this moment, the injured Jiraiya seems to be easier to bully. Senior Dai, Jiraiya fled under the joint attack of the three ninjas, enough to open Garashi and the other two followed closely behind. Mato Dai was startled, and from time to time, they used flying thunder god technique to help Jiraiya escape from danger. Garashi slightly shook his head. The scene was extremely chaotic. Let's wait first. Damage and jutsu. These three bastards are treating me like a Garashi's hand seals was too fast. Jiraiya was depressed. Even if they saw it in advance, he ran all the way and finally found an opportunity to use summon. But their reaction was also very fast. In the next moment, the Toad boss, at the same time when their vision fell into darkness, appeared in everyone's sight. They interfered with each other's chakra flow and broke free from the genjutsu one after another. Genin, Chapter 150. Genjutsu, Toad Boss, Genin, these three fellows are very strong. Jiraiya reminded. I don't need you to tell me. Gamabunta's tone was unfriendly. In addition to the fear, they also found that the people of Konoha had disappeared. And the other two felt a headache. Damn, did they use the flying thunder god jutsu they can't deal with a summoned beast? According to the information we got with this giant summoned beast protection, the more people the flying thunder god jutsu can transfer, the more chakra is needed. Leave this big fellow to me. Garashi used the ninjutsu to store chakra and directly transformed into his complete form. It is reasonable to say that he can't transfer all of them. Gamabunta took a deep breath and cursed. Most likely he opened a barrier nearby to hide. Garashi and the other two looked at each other, and in the next moment, another three giant summoned beasts were summoned. We have to hurry up. Togen, all snakes. At this moment, Garashi temporarily used the Earth-released nucleus to dig a hole in the ground. To be summoned by the barrier that isolated perception was open. Is the enemy this time in the original story? Guy can defeat Kisame with 7 summoned beasts that were not inferior to him. Although Dai's strength is not as good as Guy, couldn't help but complain. The strength of these 7 people is not at the same level as Kisame. In this way, Dai should be able to deal with 7 fighting. Asma's strength is not weak. Flew. A dozen originally together may be able to deal with one in an instant. In other words, I have to deal with the remaining 4 summoned beasts. Garashi was also somewhat helpless. On both sides. The strength of these 7 people is indeed not weak. What kind of monsters are these? With the cooperation of the ninjutsu, they can exert far more strength. Why is the gap between us so big? Even if it was him, the gap between humans is really bigger without exposing too many cards. On the other side of the battlefield, was thinking about a way to break the situation. The atmosphere which seemed to be advantageous for Garashi and the others. If Garashi but in reality, none of them Jiraiya and Orochimaru, but knowing that Garashi can also take a few people away evenly, no one wants to be the one who stays. With such a comparison, in this both sides were back to the same starting line. Remembered the story even that Garashi couldn't help but sigh. In a similar situation, Naruto and his disciples were surrounded by unit against the Hachibi. Someone must be the bait. Damn it! Don't treat this Toad like a sage. The person who didn't hesitate to say that he would be the bait and entered standby mode. Orochimaru is it the duty of a ninja to sacrifice himself? Minato's expression was solemn. Laughed and said, although I'm not proficient in the mortal Naruto, this is the only way to increase my attack power. Everyone couldn't believe it. He closed his eyes symbolically, as the son of Naruto entered sage mode in a second. Asma should be the one who has the most reason to live. Minato, how only by making the escape a good story can Garashi's reputation not be damaged. Because I don't have a lot of chakra. Mizuki glanced at Asma. I don't have many chakra techniques to refine. I will stay. Therefore, I especially developed a one-time one after another. Jiraiya was stunned when he heard this. Inuzuka clan's ninja dogs can smell the enemy. Speaking of which, I will stay. Garashi was able to comprehend there is no need to waste the opportunity. While Minato was able to enter immortal mode in 1 second. And finally quarreled. Why did it feel like their cultivation journey was completely different from the difficulties he had experienced? Everyone quieted down and Jiraiya was preparing a big move, Garashi's eyes swept became more and more violent. First of all, I will not leave you behind and run away. Before his voice fell, everyone was anxious. A bolt of black lightning in the shape of a leopard pounced towards Jiraiya. accompanied by a thunderous roar. You are the hope of the village's future. You are the one who will become Naruto. Jiraiya suddenly felt bad. Shushi shook his head slightly. This black lightning would make the person who was hit unable to move in order to become Hokage. Then I will do more things than betray my own beliefs because he couldn't make a seal with his hands. In the end, I will become the kind of person that even I don't know. So it was difficult for him to avoid the second attack of the black lightning. There is no turning back. Sure enough, but after Jiraiya easily dodged the black lightning, that I will not change what I have decided. And instead of persuading jumped on his body. It is better to change in just a moment with me. Jiraiya felt that he lost control of his body. Garashi, tell me what to do. Moment, Garashi teleported in front of Jiraiya and used his hand to meet the black lightning flame formation to create a one-on-one combat environment for me. This wasn't the first time Raikage saw this move, this time not only will I save you, but you will also take it head-on. Then he directly used Yanban thrust to hit the energy ball. However, the power of Senjutsu mixed with natural energy was far more powerful than the normal version of Otama Rasengan. Four purple flame formation was caught off guard and was blown away by this terrifying energy fluctuation. Said calmly, so, like a small meteor in the shortest time possible, Raikage smashed into the ground, making the earth tremble. Garashi shook his head slightly. But before they could celebrate, not only can you do it, but you have to do it better, spitting out a although the barrier can't be broken from the outside, if you are killed with fear, the barrier will also lose its effectiveness. You can let this old man taste the taste of injury again. You have to learn how to set up another barrier to protect yourself. Raikage was afraid, and Garashi was even heavy in their hearts. As long as one person makes a mistake, which could almost collapse a small mountain, even Garashi's life will be handed over. Shouted. Good job, Minato. Find a way to hit him again. Calm and collected. Minato was helpless. He wasn't worried about under normal circumstances. He should have 3 shots of Otama. This barrier is actually a typical type of barrier that is easy to learn, but difficult to master. In the original story, he only has one Shinobi World War, and after using it, he will have to reborn from the Edo Tensei, and his eye lines will disappear. However, he also understood what his teacher meant. Ordinary ninjas from 4 different villages who used this barrier. Minato modestly said, their tacit understanding was almost too strong. Sensei, moreover, Choza belonged to the first unit of the ninja allied forces at that time, join hands not a barrier class, which means that most of them learned it temporarily. Even they can do it, that level there's no reason why the talented geniuses in Garashi's team can't do it. Didn't show any signs of transformation, Garashi also but he was right about one thing, to work hard for his life. Can't underestimate at the very least, even if he failed, moreover, he can see that with Leaf's ninjas in the battle to protect everyone and reveal one of his trump cards. Minato is the same, saying that he is not good at Sage Mode and slapping him in the face with Sage Mode. People to block their just when he was hesitating, we don't seem to have enough. Finally finished summoning the Sage Mode. According to Garashi, he and Dai Senpai will deal with one each. And we only need to block the other 5. Ken are also here, and there are 2 other families. Kurina's eyes monster across everyone. Compared to Raikage and that is to say, obviously some of us need to act as tailed beasts and the summoned beast attracted the attention of the 2 Sage Mode. The pressure on everyone was even greater. This time not to mention that they have to learn it in a short time. They have to use it on elite ninjas like the 7 ninja swordsmen. Of course, this is no problem, as nodes for multiple barriers at the same time. Right now. In this way, even if they succeed, most of the barriers can only last for a very short time. It seems that it is time for us to counterattack, but this time, although he already has the intention to retreat, Raikage only this time they have absolutely no reason to fail. That you will win. Seeing this, Shushi comforted them gently. Just do what you need to do. Snake hand. Leave the rest Super to me. Jade Rasengan. Hearing this, right, everyone's eyes. Lightning abuse Garashi can't be wrong. All kinds of the only thing they have to do is to learn this barrier in the shortest time. For a moment, the momentum of their battle even overshadowed the short period between the tailed beasts that was a problem for Shushi to consider. Just when the battle was getting more and more chaotic, everyone began to cooperate with each other to learn. Shouted, Raikage-sama, not good. Dai also seemed to be encouraged, but he didn't want to disturb Guy. Damn, he could only hug mustache and cry. Raikage was furious. After a moment of hesitation, he shouted, Garashi seriously encouraged. Jiraiya gloated and laughed. Senpai, hey, now who asked you to sneak attack? Now your home is gone, heavily. Yes, we have to work too late to leave now. After that, but just when Jiraiya was feeling sore, Yamanaka seeing that everyone was united and excited, and their eyes seemed to be blooming with infinite brilliance. Many of our camps had been attacked by Kirin. It was just like how he used to do on the court. He could have won by himself, but he chose the most difficult path. Sneered. That's because he doesn't just want to win on the field, but outside the field. He also wants to win people's hearts. It is not good for either side to continue fighting. The cohesiveness. The stronger the cohesiveness, the more people will be Chapter attracted. 151. When he was in school, he could attract people of all grades to join him and become the leader of the school. Earth Wall. On the battlefield, Kirin has a large number of people, so the Woodleaf ninjas in the camp can only frequently use classes to join him and become the leader of the battlefield. The Kirin ninjas are not in a hurry. Only when there are enough people who agree with him. Some of his absence of reinforcements can be carried out without hindrance. They are naturally happy to use this method to squeeze the opponent's running around like headless flies. After all, if they really push too hard, damn it, where are those Woodleaf kids hiding? At this moment, in the defensive bastard who lied to us? Looking at the constantly shaking stone wall, thunder god, it seems that it will collapse at any time, Everyone in the camp
I
is
should have
desperate.
brought a perceptive
Even
ninja.
if the Earth release can
Maybe they are
restrain the
resting
water
in the
release
camp
now, the number
and we
gap
are the
between
only
the two
ones who are
sides is still
foolishly
too
looking
big
around here.
Moreover, the
Let's
Earth
go,
wall
we've
is a
tried our
B-class
best anyway.
ninjutsu. It is not
Garashi,
easy
who
to practice,
practiced
not to
attention
mention
to the
there are only
outside
6 or 7
was
of them who have
speechless
Earth
after
attribute
hearing their
chakra.
conversation.
Being able to
No
hold
wonder
on until
Kirin
now
valued
is
the
already the limit.
as much as the 6
Damn, I
paths
will
noble
fight with these
phantasm when he
bastards.
got it.
Don't they have any
detection
detection
skills?
Maybe the
Just as
reinforcements
Shushi was
will arrive
hesitating
soon.
whether or not to
If
release
there is
the
really
barrier that
reinforcements,
isolated his
this
perception,
group of Kirin ninjas
the bait
can't
man
be so
took out his
relaxed.
blunt knife and hammered it on the
clenched
ground
his
as if he
fist,
was venting his
recognized
anger.
the reality. The main
So
camp
annoying.
must be too
The
busy
ground
to
in
take
front
care
of
of
them
themselves,
collapsed, and the hidden
only
part
thing
of the
we can
cave
do
was
now is to
exposed.
kill as many
Seeing
enemies
this,
as we
both
can.
sides were a little
Listening to
dumbfounded.
Shanian,
There was
Chunin
something
who
wrong
stopped
with
him
this
at the beginning
development.
laughed at himself.
However, the
I
7
didn't
legendary
expect that I can't
swordsmen
see
reacted
things as
quickly
quickly
as
and
you.
surrounded
You are
Garashi
right, we
and the
can't
others
have
with
any
a
more
grin.
illusions.
So
The
you're
others
hiding
also
here.
laughed. You made us spend so much effort to find you.
Can't hold on any
Kids
longer.
these days are getting
Then
less
get
and less
ready.
cute.
Don't let this group of
Your uncle
Kirigikure
and really
bastards
going to get
underestimate
angry.
Konoha's ninjas.
Shushi was not angry.
At the moment when the
He just
stone
looked
wall
at the enemy
collapsed,
with a calm
a group
expression.
of wood-leaf ninjas in
The
the
problem
camp
now
rushed
is
out
how
with
do
the
I complete the
determination to
barrier?
die.
Fire
He
release,
might be able to use
great
the
fireball
darkness
technique,
traversing technique
would
again,
leave tornado.
but if the other party
Compared
was
to
on
the
guard,
wood-leaf
the
ninjas
same
who have
illusion
been fighting
technique
for
might
2
not
years,
work. Kirin
and if
ninjas
it
are a
failed,
bit
their
slow.
purpose might be
In the
exposed.
beginning, there were
So
even
they
many
must
people who
succeed
were
in one
unable
try.
to react in time, allowing Woodleaf to gain the
Thinking
upper
of
hand.
this, Garashi said in a
Unfortunately,
deep voice,
after they got used to it a
Dai
little,
Senpai,
the
I'll have to
situation
trouble you
quickly
to cover
reversed.
for me.
While
Damn it,
making
is this all you
arrangements
can
on the
do?
surface,
Garashi,
who was already able to activate
two
to everyone through the
had a
soul
look
link.
of unwillingness
It was
in his
almost
eyes.
equivalent to the
If it was
upgraded version
Garashi,
of the
this
Yamanaka
kind of
clan's
situation
secret
wouldn't be a
technique.
problem for him
Of
at all.
course, he could develop
the
a
Kirin
similar
ninjas were
function.
also ashamed
Dai
and
nodded
angry.
vigorously.
They had
looked
the
at
absolute
seven
advantage,
legendary
but they were
swordsmen
almost turned
and
around.
suddenly shouted excitedly,
This was simply a great
Guy,
humiliation.
did you see that?
Dad,
Stop
I can
struggling.
also take on an
There won't be
S-level
any
mission.
reinforcements
As
coming
he
to
said,
save
he
you.
couldn't help but
to
turn
tell you
back.
the truth,
This
Yunin
should be an
attacked your
S-level
main
mission
camp
tonight.
They
Guy
are busy
burst into
fighting
tears
each other
on the
right
spot,
now.
gave a thumbs up
In
and
this
shouted,
war, Kirin is
"Of
the
course
biggest
it is."
winner.
Seeing
Other than
the two of them
his
reveal their
frustration,
true feelings,
trash-talking
the
could
7
also
legendary
disturb the other
swordsmen
party's
who were
mentality.
worried that Dai would be a strong person.
Sure
relaxed.
enough, after being
This guy
provoked
is
by
really
them,
an idiot.
Woodleaf's
Dai
ninja's
turned back
mentality
and
was
said
somewhat
solemnly,
unbalanced.
"As the
and the
first human
disadvantage
strong
became
person to
even
fight
bigger.
with me, I will
But
definitely."
at this moment, a
human
cold
strong
voice
person?
sounded.
I'm sorry to
Shazam was
disappoint
keenly
you.
aware of the details.
Earth release.
Have you
Swamp
fought with
of the
the
underworld?
Beast?
Although
Dai
it was
raised
only
the
a
corner of
B-class
his ninja
and
gave him a
when it was
thumbs up.
used by Garashi,
Actually, I've only
it
caught
instantly
kittens
created
and
a large
puppies.
swamp.
It's the first
and many
time I
Kirin
fought
ninjas
with a
were
real
swallowed
person.
before they could react. Looking in the direction of the voice, the Woodleaf ninjas were ecstatic. Chapter
Great,
157.
it's Jianghu Shueisha.
Hearing Dai's declaration,
Garashi-sama,
even
we
the
will win.
Woodleaf people who
Although
had
there
high
was
hopes
only
for
one
him were
person in their
dumbfounded.
view,
Why do I
Garashi
feel
alone
that
could
Guy's
fight
father
against
is even
hundreds
more
of allied
unreliable
forces.
than Guy? What, kittens and
Shimizu
puppies?
Garashi.
Damn
Tankasanaji
it, how
muttered
did he
to
come so
himself and
fast?
immediately became
A
angry.
person's name, a
Damn
tree's
bastard,
shadow.
how dare you
Even if
compare
they
us
didn't
with those
participate
things?
in the war before,
Mado Dai
these
scratched the
Kirin
back of
ninjas
his
had
head
heard
and
of
complained on
Garashi's
behalf
name.
of the cats and
However,
dogs.
this was their
You're
first
not as
time
cute as
participating
them.
in the war, and they didn't
How
have
dare
the
you
rule of
humiliate
giving up
me
the
with
mission
such
like
vulgar
Yunin
words?
So even if they
Tankasanaji's
were a little
eyes were
nervous,
full of
they still
murderous
braced
intent.
themselves. For a
Don't be
qualified
afraid,
Kirin
no
ninja,
matter how strong this
powerful
guy
and
is,
cruel,
he is
the
only
most
one
appropriate
person.
label. 70
Go to
against
hell.
1. There is no
Tankasanaji
reason for
jumped
us
up
to
and
lose.
waved his blunt sword
Let them
as if
see
he
we
wanted to
Kirin
kill
ninjas are
everyone
not
in the
cowards
cave.
like Yunin.
Opportunity.
Facing the clamor
Dai
of
only
these
felt
Kirin
his
ninjas,
right foot was
Garashi
ready to
was
move.
indifferent and
It was
calmly
indeed
said to
difficult for
himself,
him to control
after
the
the
power
war,
beyond
I
his
still have
body,
to
but
reinforce
this
other
guy
camps.
jumped directly
Chakra
at him.
has to be used
Wasn't this
sparingly.
telling him to
I'll
kick?
use Flying Thunder
Without
God to kill the
hesitation,
Jonin,
Dai directly
and I'll use
opened the
taijutsu
seventh
to
door.
deal with the other ninjas.
An incomparably
In
powerful
terms of
chakra
strength, he was
soared
actually
into the
not
sky,
much worse than
and
Aang
Dai's
Killer
whole
Bee.
body was wrapped
But
in a
their
blue
positions
aura
were
as he
different,
jumped
so
up.
their performance was completely different.
The two of them could
Tankasanaji
shuttle
was hit
back
by
and
the
forth
blue
in an
aura
ordinary
crazily
battle
vomited
formation,
blood, and
a
the
weaker
layer of
ninja's
blood
couldn't
mist
even
even
break
burst
through
out
their
of his
defense.
body.
They
At
were
this
not
moment,
afraid of ordinary
Wild Bait
Jonin,
felt as if
but
his
it was
body
not
was
so
being
easy to rammed by a mad-tailed beast, trampled back and forth, his endurance was not as strong as the two of them, but with the combination of genjutsu and flying under everyone's gaze, he could easily crush the weaker ninjas like a meteor, even if the overall strength of the Jonin was not up to standard. Seeing that Garashi seemed to be a little absent-minded, a group of Kirin ninjas also became bolder, and after exchanging glances, they directly cooperated with each other to use multiple ninjas. Were also shocked. Water release, multiple water dragon technique. Is this would leaf Garashi naturally wasn't absent-minded. Such a strong person at the first time on the field, he quietly used dignity as a control several small shurikens just when the 6 people were stunned and subconsciously looked at Tonka's energy flying into the sky. Garashi raised his right hand and threw a large number of shurikens in the direction of Kirin. People didn't understand that they were in an illusion obviously also heard of his fortunately with their previous experience, and after seeing these shurikens, they all shouted nervously. Instead, they dispelled the illusion with ease. Quickly shoot down those shurikens. However, when they opened their eyes again, the world before them was completely different. While their attention was attracted out in all directions, Garashi instantly flames were attached to the barrier, trapping them like a cage. And the genjutsu he prepared in advance was just in time to complete the last hand wants to defeat us one by one. The Kirin ninja didn't even see the face of the enemy and fell into eternal darkness. Without any barrier and Garashi used Flying Thunder God to teleport to the side of another person. Such treatment. The second lucky ninja was obviously luckier, rid of the illusion, and after seeing he saw Garashi rushing towards him, he realized that there was a problem. It was too late for him to dodge. Unfortunately, he could only barely hold the beheading knife in front of his chest. And under Garashi's genjutsu, he barely struggled a few times, and then unstoppable force came. At this time, the blade of the executioner's broadsword was bent. Yoshinobu Jonin, in the next moment, Pipa Shirzong was sent flying like a cannonball. The only two Jonins followed like a shadow, just like that. And with a heaven's pain less than 3 seconds, he broke a small section of the beheading knife that blocked his attack. If we stay here. Pipa Shirzong no wonder their reaction was so intense and ran for his life. Action of killing two Jonins in just 1 or 2 seconds. Pipa Shirzong was surrounded by danger, eyes were dull, and he didn't even have time to form a seal to counterattack. At this moment, he even began to suspect that the scenes in his memory of fighting back and forth with Garashi were not his imagination, right? Thinking of their previous evaluation of Garashi, were so excited they felt even more guilty. As expected, how was it possible that no one could defeat him in a one-on-one fight? This kind of clean and neat killing was too exciting. Even if 2 or 3 of them were to fight one-on-one, after crushing the 2 Jonins with absolute advantage, the 5 of them looked at each other who were new to the battlefield, increased the damage to the barrier. And almost similarly, 1/3 of the ninjas fled. Who had just fallen from the sky, Shushi breathed a sigh of relief. As soon as he hit the ground, he saw Mato Dai directly use it like Yunin's brothers, so this kind of situation was the most suitable for him to use taijutsu, and turned his body to the side as if he had accepted his fate. Counterattacked. Then he saw Mato Dai after leaving behind him 30 or 40 corpses. The rest of the Kirin ninjas barely escaped. The person was at a loss. A group of woodleaf ninjas physical strength and reaction speed of a strong martial artist were extremely fast. Garashi shook his head slightly. At his peak, I'm sorry, I have to go to the next to avoid the attack of such a strong martial artist. Garashi disappeared that he was seriously injured. Regarding Garashi's behavior, of course, a bold thought came to the person's mind, but they were full of admiration. Rushing towards him again. Garashi, he didn't have time really to think and jump to the side. Yes, in the end, he dodged again. That they should have just finished a big battle. The person coughed up blood. By the way, Shunyan, I heard that you and Garashi-sama. So that's how it is. I understand now. You really tell us more about Garashi-sama. You have power, but you can't control. Recalled the past with a sigh. Although I don't know how you got such from the battle between Garashi and me, it's still too early for you to kill Garashi and Minato. Hearing his wild laughter, saved hundreds of ninjas were a little nervous, and the reputation of both of them ushered in a big rise. But in the next moment, they abandoned this idea. A lot of results. Just like how Garashi chose to believe them, the name of they definitely wouldn't doubt has become a nightmare for many ninjas in the village who were looking for the weaknesses in their mentality. Were surprised to find that this Chapter group of 152 brats mentality in the village of Kawa. Not the Kirin ninjas here were divided into 2 extremes. Opposite the person one side was happy, the person named Mato Dai nodded as if they were in 2 different worlds. Compared to strong martial artists like you, I killed 7 people in Yunin. Too big. So next, I was so miserable. Let me open the last door. Chased by Woodleaf's ninjas all night. The person named Mato Dai was so scared that his face turned white. I've been unhappy with those guys for a long time. Power. If he let the opponent use his first strength, I was chased by Shimizu Garashi, he could still easily escape, right? I met Minato who was chasing another team. But suddenly, however, Garashi's voice came from the other side of the battlefield. We robbed from them are enough for us to use for a few months. Mato Dai was confused. Not to mention the next moment he felt a strange thing squeezing into his body. He subconsciously wanted to resist. The 2 sides, but when he thought of Garashi's voice, he relaxed. It seems that the one who was miserable was the one who attacked with the only person who looked up to him and his father, this level and never stingy with his help. The Mizukic was very dissatisfied was laughing when he heard the report, but suddenly he couldn't help the eyes of the person was too difficult to grasp. If we start from being simple and honest and being in high spirits and full of aggressiveness, if we declare the war later, maybe they will finish the war. It seems that I still underestimated the potential and it takes time for them to gather and move. Garashi, who took over Mato Dai's body, for him to be also a micromaster. He thought that his immortal mode combined with the 5 loss on the battlefield is entirely because of Minato and Shimizu Garashi. But now it seems that the more the and it only takes a few minutes to reverse the more the immortal mode strength relatively speaking, Yunin's battlefield this could also be because he didn't dig enough into the immortal mode. The Mizuki's eyes were full of the power of the 7 this kid was promoted to Chunin 2 years ago. It's already a and now he can control a war. Mato Dai speed of growth is really scary. Mato Dai. The Jonin couldn't help but say, have you thought about how you want to die? Are all Yunin's ninjas idiots? They let such a genius grow up. Cat nodded in agreement. Chapter 158. If it were our Kirin, we wouldn't have given him the chance to grow with difficulty. The Mizukic shook his head slightly. They had also learned from Yunin that Garashi had another signature ability. It's not easy to kill him. At this
Therefore,
time,
he
the
roughly
Jonin
understood
with the devil
who his
mask
current
who hasn't
opponent
spoken
was.
asked with some
That
worry,
thick eyebrows,
Mizuki's
speed and
strength,
strength,
isn't it
plus
too
Shimizu
radical to
Gurashi's
declare
combat
war on
awareness?
relief and
Damn
unity?
it, I seem to
Hearing
be in
the
trouble.
meaning of his words,
Tonka
the
Sanuji
Mizuki
could
chuckled.
only forcefully hypnotize
Are you worried
himself.
that they will abandon their
Dividing
hatred
his
and join
attention into
forces
two
to deal
means
with
that
us?
neither of his bodies
Yes,
can
this
fully display
subordinate
their
is indeed
strength.
worried.
As long as I
Remember,
delay him a
Kirin
little,
is far away
maybe
from home.
Juzong can defeat
This is
his
our
main
limitation,
body, but it is also
However,
our biggest
if Pipa
advantage.
Shirzong knew what
The
Tonka
Mizuki
Sanuji was thinking,
analyzed.
he would most
Unlike
likely
the other
curse
four
out loud.
families, we have
He was
no
about
use
to
for
be beaten to
territory.
death.
This
and he was
also
still
means that
waiting
compared
for
to
others
those
to
fellows
save
who
him.
are thinking of
Moreover,
ways to seize
Garashi
territory
had
and
no
expand their
intention of
territory,
delaying with him.
our threat of
He
occasionally
controlled
going
such a
ashore to
powerful
rob them
force,
will always
and
be
he was
secondary.
facing a seriously injured
Besides, how
Tonka
can they
Sanuji?
retaliate?
If he still
If we
wanted to
lose,
delay
we can
like
just
this,
go
he
back
would
to
be
the
too
Water
weak.
Nation.
With a
Would
flash,
they dare to chase
Mato
us to the
Dai
Water Nation?
appeared in front
If
of
that's
Tonka
the case, I
Sanuji
will laugh
almost
out
instantly.
loud. How can he be so fast?
It's not that he looks
Tonka
down on these
Sanuji
land
had just
countries,
thought of this
but
when
if
his
it really
opponent's
becomes a
fists
naval
landed
war,
on his
he
body
dares
like
to
a
fight
storm.
four people like Wood Leaf.
Hundreds
Moreover,
of punches
even
were
if Wood
thrown
Leaf
in an
and
instant,
Yunin have the
and
determination
Tonka
to
Sanuji
go on an
didn't even have
expedition,
time to react
they have to
before he
reach a
exploded.
non-aggression agreement
A
with the other
1-second
side.
kill.
But
Seeing
is this
this, the
possible?
5 people in the
After
barrier
2 years
panicked.
of war, Wood
How
Leaf
is this
and Yunin
possible?
have a deep
It's
hatred
just
for
that
each
it's
other.
completely different
Even
when
if one of
someone
them
is
says that they
controlling it.
won't retaliate,
Damn
the
it.
other side
This
will
guy is
absolutely
controlling
not
2
gamble on
bodies
the
at the
enemy's
same
bottom
time.
line.
Isn't there any
In short,
obstruction?
Kirin is as
We have to
stable as
break
an
the
old
barrier
dog.
as soon as possible,
Listening to
or
his
else
analysis,
all of us will
the
die
rest
here.
of the Jonins
Under
showed
the
a
pressure
look
of
of
conviction,
death.
the 5
Indeed,
people
the
erupted
previous
with
2 wars have
unprecedented
proved it.
potential.
No matter
And
how
the
much
barrier
they
that
do
was
in
about to
Kirin,
reach its
the
limit
flames of war
instantly
will not
began
be
to shake.
attracted to them.
Garashi
At
looked
this
at the
time,
direction of the
a Kirin
barrier
Jonin
and chose
came
the
over
one
with
that
a
was
strange
shaking the most
expression.
violently, and said,
Mizuki-sama,
remove
there is a
Shinhachi's
ninja who
barrier.
claims to be Yunin's
The
spy
barrier
who
that
wants
was
to meet
originally
you.
a cage
The
had now
Mizuki
become
was
a wall
quite
that
amused.
protected them. Meet me? Shinhachi,
Oh,
who was
Rakichi,
trying
that
his
guy
best to
shouldn't
break
send
his
his
men
men
to
to
die
was
just
dumbfounded.
dumbfounded, right? His
After
strength was
thinking
only
for a
ranked in
moment,
the
the
middle, so
Mizuki
how did he
said,
become the one
"Let
that
him
was
come
shaking
over."
the most? At 10
Thinking
o'clock
of
in the
this,
morning,
he
Garashi
subconsciously
got
looked
up
at
from
the
the bed
others.
with a tired face.
You tricked me?
Even if
The
it's
eyes
him,
of the other
after
4 were
unlocking the
indifferent.
Yin Seal and
Although
fighting
they
for
were
a whole
called the
night,
7
and then
legendary
fighting the
swordsmen,
fire for a
they
whole
were
night,
never on the
he was a
same
little
side.
tired. At the same
Opening
time,
the tense curtain,
Pipa
the
Shirzong
dazzling
was also
sunlight
affected
shone,
by the death
making
of Wild
Garashi
Bait.
subconsciously
His
squint
movement
his
showed a
eyes.
hint of panic.
Looking around,
and
almost
Garashi
everyone in the
decisively
camp was
entered the
injured,
one-punch
and their
mode.
faces were also
Monster
full
strength,
of fatigue.
meteorite
However,
meteor.
they didn't have too much
Like a
sadness.
volcanic eruption,
In the 2 years
the
of war,
incomparably
they have
powerful
experienced too
explosive
many
force
deaths.
caused the air
In
to
this
emit
case,
a
it's good to
thunderous
be
sound.
alive.
Pipa
There is also
Shirzong
one point that
subconsciously
is
tried
the
to block the
comparison with
attack
Yunin.
with his machete.
Perhaps in order
However,
to appease
the beheading
everyone's
broadsword
mood,
that had been hit several
Orochimaru
times in a row could
accidentally
no longer bear
leaked
the
the
burden.
information after
With a
receiving
loud
Yunin's
explosion,
information.
Pipa Shirzong
Sure
watched
enough,
in
after
disbelief
knowing
as
that
the
the
beheading
culprit of
knife was
yesterday's
cut in
war
half.
was much worse than them,
Everyone's mood
then
instantly
without
became
losing
happy.
any momentum,
You have
the
suffered
fist landed
retribution
on
for your
Pipa
sneak
Shirzong's
attack.
waist.
However,
splitting
they
him in
also
2.
know who is the one
Seeing this scene,
responsible for this
Ujinba
result.
was so scared that
Therefore,
he turned
after
around
seeing
and ran
Garashi
away.
appear,
This was also the
everyone
reason why
excitedly
Garashi
greeted him.
didn't use Genjutsu,
Garashi, why
but
did you
chose
get
the
up so
simplest
quickly?
and most
Don't you want
violent
to
way
rest
to
for
get
a
rid
while?
of Pipa Shirzong.
Garashi, the barrier
Sama,
was already
thank
on
you
the
so
verge
much.
of
If it weren't
collapse.
for you,
If
we would have
Ujinba
died
was allowed to
yesterday.
delay for a
Garashi
while,
responded
maybe the
one
others
by
would be
one,
able to break
and
out.
when he encountered
Several
serious
people in the
injuries,
barrier
he
had
took the
gloomy
initiative
eyes
to
and
treat
said
them.
loudly, after
Idiot.
another wave of
You actually
reputation
exposed
points,
your back to the
Shushi
enemy.
finally arrived
That
at
Shimizu
Minato's
Garashi
tent.
is not as strong as he showed.
Are you there?
Juzong and
Garashi
Wild Bait
both
come in.
lost the initiative and
Garashi
died.
walked into the tent,
Hearing
and
their
saw
voices,
Minato's haggard
Ujinba
face.
sneered.
Obviously
Of course,
worse
he
than
knew
him.
that Shimizu
After
Garashi
all,
was
he
not
doesn't
that
have the
strong,
Yin
but
Seal's
the problem
ability.
was that even so,
Seeing Garashi,
Shimizu
Minato
Garashi
couldn't
was still
help but
much
laugh.
stronger than him. It seems that
He had
both of
already
us have been
calculated
squeezed
that it
dry.
would take
This
them 20
feeling of
seconds to
hollowing
break
out
out
is
of the
not
barrier,
good.
right?
By the
However,
time they
it's
came
not
out,
bad
the
to get
grass
used
on
to
his
it in
grave would be
advance.
3 meters high.
Garashi's face was
Instead of
blank.
buying time for these bastards, it was
Don't
better
tell
to
me that he's driving a car? When Shimizu Garashi chased after him, there would be an accident in the barrier, Minato forcing Shimizu Garashi to return early. Does Orochimaru-sama have another stream of light and chased after Wujinba? Garashi gently shook his head in front of the barrier immediately and calmly glanced at the remaining four people. I would like to ask you how to use your one-time use sage Watermelon Mountain, Fugu, of course, no problem. Prayed frantically Minato didn't hesitate at all. At this moment, contrary, he was very happy to be able to help they were pigs in a pigsty. Seeing this, selected Garashi couldn't help but sigh. It didn't take long for Shushi to pick the fourth piglet. Was indeed the number one tool in his sequence. It's actually me. He was too reliable. Unlike Wujinba, at this moment, Jiraiya Bamboo, who was relatively confident in his own strength, Sensei, what are you doing? Did not choose to escape. When I was passing by, he roared and happened to hear your conversation. Garashi with his Jiraiya pretended to cough twice. Choosing me as your opponent is the worst decision in your life. Are very strict and dangerous cultivation. The risk of rashly developing it is very high, and then converted to let me listen by the side. Energy ball. I can guide you accompanied by a terrifying power, pushed towards Garashi. On the opposite side, Garashi looked at the other party's actions with a strange expression. Minato didn't think too much about it. You want to compete with me in terms of chakra quality? That's great. He knew that Flounder was a killing weapon that could release chakra as the number of enemies killed increased. There won't be any problem. But the problem was you haven't killed anyone yet. Twice. This level of chakra wanted to fight with Sage Jiraiya. Garashi didn't even intend to maintain the Hashimoto. Minato said seriously. After entering the one-time Sage mode method, he instantly condensed an equally huge chakra energy ball. Regarding this, the two were not surprised. Super Jade Raising If there are advantages, because Garashi used Flying Thunder God and Raising Gan the most on the battlefield, very short, there was relatively little information about one time is not much. He only knew that this mode needed a long time to accumulate power. Take me for example, the one-time refinement of chakra can only be used 3 times at most. Counting the loss, there were only 2 times he had chosen to fight head-on. Minato said Ghost Blade Mountain Bamboo was overjoyed. This mode is not very useful. He was most worried about compared to the immortal technique. The Flying Thunder God technique is more suitable. Give up his greatest advantage to fight head-on with enemies. The Flying Thunder God technique with the Raising Gan is enough. How can a person's strength be compared to a person and a ninja sword? 2 immortal techniques are not an ignorant brat. So after I developed it, I rarely used this mode. Jiraiya looked dignified. Although they were the loss of 1/3 of chakra was the difference in quality between the two sides was too great. For him, the greatest use of this mode was in collaboration with the almost immediately. Then the rest of the energy was released on Ghost Blade Mountain Bamboo's body. He had practiced in the next moment he became several years earlier than God. Garashi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He could also use the opportunity to heal Dai's internal injuries to correct his own cultivation ninja sword. So he could also open in terms of intelligence. As for why he didn't use it, on one hand it was because the first 3 gates of the 8 or 10 gates were a safe zone. But at the same time, there was a certain risk if he exceeded it. The remaining 3 barriers were broken at the same time, combined with the immortal wild laughter came out. Opening the 8 inner hidden gates would make the chakra in the body irritable. Go with this would conflict before they could finish laughing. They saw a few familiar body parts. Of course, this didn't mean that it was absolutely impossible. The 3 of them were a little confused. Just like a person who could barely swing a 100 had originally agreed to break the barrier and could swing a 30 sledgehammer fight easily. But Mountain Bamboo, the 8 inner hidden gates was the same miserably. The first 3 gates were the limit of his blood splattering all over the sky. Anymore, and he wouldn't be able to maintain Sage mode. Screams coming from the power of Sage mode. The 3 of them suddenly felt cold all over. The same as the 5th gate, and the others, but the damage was smaller and the duration was longer. They still couldn't stabilize the barrier. In comparison, he was too lazy to open just the 5th gate. Just as they were thinking whether the advantage of using Sage mode caused trouble for Garashi, they saw Watermelon in an instant he could coordinate with 5th gate to deal maximum damage at the fastest speed in their lives. It didn't matter if he exited Sage mode. Would Leaf and the others subconsciously widen their eyes? The only problem was, this is the famous 7 ninja swordsman of the ninja world. Brother Minato, unexpectedly, Sage they were scared by Garashi's gaze and fled for their lives. He wasn't worried about chakra's consumption. However, not all 3 of them were like this. Using these 2 modes meant that he had to fight with his life on the line. Separately, there is only a 1 in 3 chance of escaping successfully. Continuous Shisaku looked at Leaf and the others who were close by. Actually, I haven't tried to use it continuously. Take advantage of the fact that he is distracted by the escape of the 2 of them. A ninja like you, Garashi, who has no longer hesitating, your physique is much stronger than mine. Maybe you can use it 2 or 3 times. But in the next moment, he was Jiraiya said helplessly, it's really a one-time Sage mode. Damn, he actually noticed sometimes it might have a miraculous effect. Shisaku's heart was cold. After talking about the limitations of this mode for death, Minato began to explain the key points and the process in detail. I don't seem to be seriously injured. 2 hours later, Garashi nodded thoughtfully. In the previous 2 times, I understand. Shirzong and Ghost Blade Mountain he instantly entered the one-time Sage mode. But this time he was alive and well. What's going on? Could it be that Shimizu Garashi's chakra is already? How did you know? Thinking of this, Minato smiled embarrassedly with joy. It's very simple, he doesn't have much chakra left. It's just a small trick that I casually thought of when I was bored. Pufferfish and Garashi shook his head and said, although the method is very simple, leaving Shisaku alone in the wind, able to develop then he saw the people around him laughing and surrounding him, talking so lightly, Jiraiya almost doubted his life. Is he too stupid or are these 2 guys not human at all? At this time, Minato thought of someone who was forgotten. Soon, another corpse appeared on the ground. By the way, Sensei, do you have any suggestions? I suggest you say it again. Everyone's body wanted to say this in his heart on the ground, out of the dignity of a teacher. Jiraiya, 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja sword. A powerful Sage mode that could capture a small country overnight. It has some of the style of Sensei. Not to mention them, even Minato was overjoyed and would find it difficult to escape from such an enemy. Was too simple, but not only did they do it, but they also removed the name of the 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja sword with a painful expression. And all of this had been accomplished, he would be hurt by these 2 guys learning God's key. The admiration in everyone's eyes when they looked at Shushi was so strong that it could not be discouragement. Jiraiya shouted excitedly, Garashi didn't care about him and just legendary swordsmen of the ninja with Minato. From today on, your name will definitely spread throughout the ninja world. The 2 who were still in the academic discussion were called out by Yamanaka Kurikase. Garashi, I'm really sorry, also become a legend like Sama asked the 2 of you to go to the conference room. Garashi's various names were only spread on the battlefield to say this. Kirin, the 2 of them were busy all night. His name may be heard even long before they were called again. Even animals can't be used like this. Everyone nodded with pride, worthy of the person they recognized and were willing to follow.
be so handy.
However, Garashi shook his head slightly.
Didn't care.
No, it's
After
not
all,
me,
they
it's
all
us.
have a heart
Garashi,
dedicated to
you.
Woodleaf.
If it were someone else, would they be willing to bet their lives on me?
Orochimaru
Without
and
your
Jiraiya,
trust, I
the
can
rest
only
of the
run away
Jonins
as a
were
loser.
already in place.
Upon hearing Shuishi's explanation, many
Obviously,
people
it was a
muttered to
very
themselves
formal
in a
meeting.
daze.
Are
Seeing
we
that
really
everyone
that
was here,
important?
Orochimaru
Of course,
said,
people who
the
believe
current
in miracles
situation
are
has
as
become
great
a
as
three-way
miracles.
battle,
But
Garashi's
don't have any
warm and
illusions
soft
about the
eyes
enemy.
swept across the
It's
crowd.
unrealistic
We
to
are the
expect
best team
Yunin
and
and
Kirin
Kirin
to fight
this
to the
miracle
death.
was created by all
According
of us.
to the information
Almost
obtained by
everyone
the spy,
burst into tears.
Rakage decided
In fact,
to personally
they had been
take
blaming
people to find the
themselves
Mizukage for
because they were
revenge.
too weak,
But at the same
Garashi
time,
had
they
no
have
choice
signs
but
but
to
to stay
attacking us.
behind and protect
In
them
this
at the
regard,
risk of
no one was
dying in
surprised.
battle.
The first two wars were also
not only
like
did
this.
Garashi not
At
blame
first,
them,
Woodleaf
but
was
he also
fighting three
recognized
and one
them
was
as his
fighting
best
four,
companions.
but after a while,
Such
the
a
other
Garashi
villages
was
started
simply
fighting
too
among
gentle.
themselves.
If emotions
Even
could be
Rock-Krypsis
quantified,
and Kirin
their
took
current
advantage of
performance could
Yunin's
be
battle
described
with
as
Woodleaf to
follows.
attack Woodleaf.
Worship plus
After
1
the
plus
sneak
2
attack, they
plus
fought over
3
the loot.
plus
Even the
10,080
second
Suchage
Suchage and the second Mizukage died in
Garashi
that
knew
battle.
when to stop.
With this
Next,
precedent,
let's
they
pack
won't
up
be
the spoils
surprised
of
if
war
the
and
other
bring these
villages
ninja
do
swords
anything.
back. After
Let's try to
assigning
create
the
a
tasks
group of
one by
5
one,
ninja swords.
Orochimaru
An
encouraged
ownerless
them
ninja
again.
sword can
The
be
current
summoned
situation
back,
is difficult,
but it won't be if it's in
everyone
someone's
persevere.
possession.
Sensei
In
will soon
Garashi's
come to
memory,
support
during
us.
the 4 world
As
wars
soon as
in
his
the
voice
original
fell,
work, there was a
Shiraku
commotion.
and Flounder were not psychic because they were held by Killer Bee
but the
and
safety of the
Shoujo
village,
respectively.
unlike Yunin,
Of course, it would be best to
located in the
reseal
center
it.
of the 4 great
After
ninja
all, he
villages,
couldn't just eat,
and there are many
drink,
enemies,
defecate,
and there is the
or sleep
danger
with
of a
a knife
sneak
in his
attack
arms.
at any time.
Unless
Isn't
the
this
war is at
beheading
the
sword
most critical
broken?
moment,
Don't
worry,
Naruto
the
usually
characteristic
stays in
of
the
the
village
beheading
to guard
sword
the
is to
village.
absorb the
Of
iron
course,
in the
there are
blood to
exceptions.
repair itself.
That is Mito-sama as the former Kyubi Jinchuriki
Don't waste
to
it,
guard
take
with
this sword
leaf.
and cut them a
Thinking
few more
of this,
times.
Minato couldn't
On the
help
way
but
back,
ask, Orochimaru
isn't that
very powerful?
Super powerful.
Orochimaru nodded with a smile, because
Sensei
Guy gave a
believes
thumbs
that
up,
she can
the
bear
simple
this heavy
stretcher tilted,
responsibility.
and Dai instantly
Minato's
screamed
heart
in
was
despair.
filled with warmth.
Shushi shook his head
Shinakushina
helplessly.
said,
We will
the
live up to
after-effects
the
of
trust
opening
of
the
the
seventh
village.
gate were too
Garashi
severe.
couldn't help but
Even a
sigh in
strong
his
man
heart.
like Dai would
When he
scream in
becomes
pain just
Naruto
because
in
he
the
moved a
future,
little.
he must let
Hearing this
Sanden be the
scream,
administrative
Konoha's
director
ninjas
of the
who were on
school.
duty around rushed over with a shiver.
Seeing that it was Garashi, they were relieved. Chapter 154.
Shinobi Shueisha,
On the
didn't
way
you
to
go on
the
a
country
mission?
of Kawanishi.
Why are you back so soon?
Garashi and his special
Without waiting for
operations
him to
team
finish,
were running
the
through the
ninja
forest
next to
in
him
a ninja
screamed,
run posture.
This isn't this
Garashi,
Kirin's ninja
I heard
sword?
that you killed 11
Hearing
Kirin's
this scream,
Jonin
the
early
ninjas
this
around
morning.
quickly reacted.
Asma turned his head
Beheading
and asked
broadsword,
excitedly.
blunt sword pocket
It's only
cut,
today that
long
I can
sword
achieve
so
such a
needle.
result.
Didn't you say
When
that
Kirin
Kirin's
reacts,
7
they will most
legendary
likely
swordsmen
let
of the
the
ninja
ninjas
sword
act
have
together.
always been with him?
As long as 3
Asma
Jonins
waved his
stand
hand with
together
an
at all
embarrassed
times,
face.
it will be
Oh,
difficult
actually,
for my
we met
strategy
the
to
7
work.
legendary swordsmen of the
Garashi
ninja
said
sword on the
modestly.
road and killed 5
Anyway,
of them.
Kirin must be
In an
heartbroken
instant,
right
the camp
now.
was dead silent.
Asma said with a
After
gloating
a quarter
smile.
of an hour,
11 Jonins,
the Jonins
even
who
heard
heard
the
the
news
news
crowded the
afford this
conference
price.
room, and outside the
Mizuki
conference
flattered
room,
without any
there were
bottom
many
line.
genin and
It's
chunin
just a piece
sneakily
of
lying
gravel,
down.
not even half as good as Garashi.
Jiraiya slapped himself
If this
and
kind
asked,
of words were
"You
said
mean
in other
Kirin's
places,
7 legendary
perhaps some people
swordsmen
would
of the
doubt
ninja
it,
sword
but the
came to
people
kill
in the
you,
team not
but you
only
killed
didn't
5
have any
of them?"
disgust,
Garashi
but instead they
emphasized,
all nodded with
"It's us."
admiration and respect.
Jiraiya didn't hear
Most
this.
of them
He
wasn't
wasn't already
a fool.
loyal
How
fans
could
of
he not know
Garashi
who
when
was
they
in
were still in
charge?
school. It's not
After
bad if
coming
other
to the
people can play a
battlefield,
role.
they can hear
The
Garashi
other
creating
Jonins
new
in the
legends
conference room
almost
were
every
also
day.
shocked. Coupled with
Yesterday we
Garashi's
killed
meticulous
11
care for
Jonins.
them,
Today we
their
even
good
killed
impression
5
of him
of the
has
7
turned into
legendary
worship.
swordsmen of the ninja
Garashi
sword.
shook his head
Will the
slightly.
Mizukage cry?
Actually, I'm just.
From now on, we
At
will
this
call
time,
Garashi
a
the
team
Jonin
of Kirin's
harvester.
ninjas appeared in front of
I was
everyone's
promoted
field
to
of
Jonin
vision.
at the age of
After
27.
seeing Mizuki
I
and
think
the
I'm a
others,
genius,
the team of
but in
Kirin's
Garashi's
ninjas
eyes,
sped up
I'm just a
excitedly.
number.
It turned
Are
out
all
to be
newcomers
Woodleaf's
monsters
kid. It's
now?
a big deal. Seeing this,
Hey,
Shushi
Konoha
hurriedly
is in
explained
such
what
a
had
difficult
happened.
situation
However,
that even children
everyone
have to be sent
surprised
to
in
the
the battlefield,
but became more
then
and
they
more
saw
shocked.
Garashi, who was
Although
talking,
it wasn't
turn
1
his
against
head,
7 as
and
they
in an
imagined,
instant,
it was
3 or 4
amazing
Kirin's
enough to kill
ninjas
the
screamed
enemy
as
in a
if they
single
saw a
attack.
ghost.
How
Changing
many seconds to kill a 7 legendary swordsmen.
The ghost of
Is
assassination
7
in the fog of
legendary
time and
swordsmen of the
space.
ninja sword a unit
Hearing
of time?
these voices,
It's
the rest
too
of the Kirin's
exaggerated.
ninjas
I was just
trembled
a
and
chunin
almost
when I
fell
was
from
Garashi's
the tree.
age.
If there were still
They
many
knew that
people who
Garashi
thought
was
that
strong,
Cloud Village
but
was
because
exaggerating
Garashi has
before,
always been
after
fighting
today,
with
no matter
Minato
how
or
arrogant they were,
Orochimaru,
they wouldn't
and
have
Jiraiya,
such thoughts
they
anymore.
didn't have an accurate
Killing
idea
11
of
Jonins
Garashi's
in one
strength.
night, this
Well,
kind
it's
of
clear
record
now.
is simply
The
breaking
kind
their
that can beat
courage.
them with one hand.
Damn it, we
Even
hit the
Jiraiya
jackpot on
couldn't
the
help
first
but
day.
gasp.
This guy
To be
is
fair,
not someone
even
we
if
can
it was
deal
1
with.
against 7, he
Fortunately,
wouldn't lose to them.
Kirin has
but killing a
urgently
7
issued a rule
legendary
that if they
swordsman
see
in a
what
few
Leaf
seconds
Gemini,
was something
they
he
can
couldn't
give up
do.
the mission. So they hurriedly turned around
In terms
and
of
ran
single
without
kill,
thinking.
he really can't
Seeing
compare to
Garashi's
Garashi.
name scared away
Lying on the
Kirin's,
bordered
the
soil,
admiration in
Jiraiya
their eyes
swallowed
became
crazily.
more and more. Senpai
Garashi,
is
leave
too
the task of
powerful.
chasing
If I
them.
can be as strong
Don't
as
worry,
Senpai,
we-
maybe Rin will.
Garashi didn't stop
Kakashi
them.
looked at him with disgust.
Those who can
and
be
immediately
selected by
clenched
him
his
are at
fist.
least geniuses
The gap
in the eyes
between
of ordinary
Senpai and me
people.
seems to be getting
Although they
bigger
are
and
young,
bigger.
their strength is not
At this
weak.
time, there was a
The most
commotion
important
outside.
thing is that this
Wow.
team of Kirin's
It's Naruto
ninjas doesn't seem to
Sama.
have any decent
Great,
strength.
it's Naruto-sama who came to help. As he
Wait,
guessed
do
before,
we need
if the
reinforcements
Jonins are
now?
grouped together,
Why are there
it
so
means
many
that it will
people
be
here?
difficult for the
Why
other
don't we
teams
need
to be assigned to
reinforcements?
Jonin.
With some doubts,
everyone came back from the
walked
chase.
into the conference
It's
room.
really boring.
Then
There
he
isn't
saw
even
the
a
5
Jonin
swords.
in these Kirin's team.
This is
Asma sighed.
Senpai,
Seeing
I may have
Garashi
troubled
kill
you in
11
vain.
Jonins in one night,
Orochimaru
he also wanted to
helplessly
test his
spread his
strength.
hands.
Jonin
As
and
far as the
Jonin
current
can't be lumped
situation is
together.
concerned,
The
Mizuki
crisis
squinted
seems
his
to have
eyes.
been resolved. If you encounter a strong Jonin like Garashi and challenge him rashly, you won't even know how you died. Chapter 160. How strong can Kirin's Jonin be?
Sandaime-sama
You can't
also
encounter
joined the
their
list of
7 ninja
gasps,
swordsmen,
which
right?
made the temperature of
Asma
early
said
spring rise a
indifferently.
little.
Suddenly,
Kirin's
there was a
7-man
burst of
team
laughter
into a
that
2-man
sounded like
team
the
was
wailing
something
of
he didn't
ghosts
even
and
dare
howling
to
of
imagine.
wolves. Looking at Garashi,
I heard you want to challenge
Sandaime-sama
us?
was very satisfied.
Then I will fulfill your wish.
His talent,
The
temperament,
next moment,
and faith were all
7
perfect.
oddly shaped fellows
Especially
appeared
the
on
way he
surrounding
dealt with the
trees.
incident this time.
Just a glance,
he saw
would
the
leaf and
shadow
the
of
others
his
were
teacher and
terrified.
Shueisha. People may
That's
be
how
mistaken,
Naide
but the
Naruto
iconic
protected
ninja
them in
sword
the
will
past.
not. Orochimaru smiled.
It turned out to be Kirin's
Sensei is
7
our
lucky
ninja swordsman. The crisis
Damn,
was
this
solved
retribution
as soon as he
came
arrived.
too fast.
Sandaime-sama
Asma,
smiled
use your
and
mouth to
accepted
curse them.
Orochimaru's
Asma's
flattery.
face turned purple.
Don't
What's
flatter
the
me, this is
situation?
all
He
thanks
just
to
said it
Garashi.
casually.
Since
the
the
crisis
Kirin's
has
7
been
ninja
solved,
swordsmen are
when
the
do you
same
plan
as
to
would
return
leave
to the
Sannin.
village?
The current
Since I'm already
situation is
here,
equivalent
let me
to
move a
Kirin's
little bit
Sannin.
so that the
Of
shameless
course, if you
Raikage
really
always
want to talk
bullies you
about the
juniors.
difference, it's
They
probably
weren't
the
overly
difference between
optimistic,
Shichibukai
but they
and the
knew
3
the
admirals.
impact of this incident
Even
on
so,
Kirin.
such a lineup
You
is
know,
definitely
the
not
7
something
legendary
they can deal with.
swordsmen were promoted as
Garashi did not
Kirin's
hesitate.
face.
He
He
took
took
out
out
a
of them
kunai
at
and
once,
directly crushed
which is
it with a
equivalent to
strange
2
force.
Sannin and would
The
leave
7 ninja
size.
swordsmen did
Whether
not
in
stop
terms of
him, they
combat
just looked
power
at him
or
with a
morale,
smile. Kirin will
1
be greatly
second, 2
weakened.
seconds, 3
In this
seconds
case,
passed.
Kirin may
There was
directly
no
escape
movement
back
around.
to the land of water.
Kurosakaru played with
Garashi
his sword and
reminded
smiled.
him, Naruto,
Are you waiting for
Sama,
Namake's
this time we
Minato
can achieve
support?
such a result.
Unfortunately,
In addition to
he
our
doesn't have time to
cooperation,
save people
it is
now.
also thanks to
Raiga's
Daisama's
voice was
efforts.
indifferent.
He should be
Dai.
playing hide and seek with
Sandaime-sama
Yunin's
nodded with a
brothers
smile.
now. After
Yunin?
returning to the village
Garashi
this
asked
time,
in a deep
let him be
voice.
promoted
Yesterday
to
was a
Tokubetsu
play
Jonin.
between you and Yunin?
Mado Dai's own
Kurosakaru
Kurosakaru
waved
waved
his
his
hand
hand
again and
without
again.
opening the 8
No,
gates.
of course
He's at
the
most
war
a
is
Chunin,
real,
which is
otherwise
easy to
I
be
can't
targeted.
fool you.
He can't
Deepa
open the 8
Shirzong
gates
nodded.
every day,
By
right?
the way,
If
it's
he
true
really
that
has the
Raikage
title
is
of
looking for
Jonin,
Mizuki
it's not a
Sama
good
for
thing
revenge.
for him. Garashi
However,
didn't
this
say
doesn't
much.
prevent us from
He knew
working
very
together
well
to
that in this
eliminate
incident,
threats,
Mado
because you
Dai
are
was
too
destined
dangerous.
not to be the main
That's
character.
right. Wooly
Just
said.
like in the original
But this
work,
doesn't prevent
when
us from
Pipa
working
Shirzong
together
asked
to
Itachi
eliminate
about
threats
the 4
because you are
heroes
too
of the 7
dangerous.
ninja swordsmen, he
Watermelon
only got a
Mountain
response
Pufferfish
that he had
grinned.
never heard of
To
them.
make the 7
The
of us
reason
work
was
together,
very simple.
this is the
For a
treatment
strong
of a
person
Kage
like him
village.
to be a genin
How
his
did it
entire
become
life.
me?
If word of this
Garashi
got out,
subconsciously
wouldn't
looked
it
at
mean
Metke.
that the upper echelons
Metke,
of
who
would
was
be
nervous,
nervous, good for
wondered,
nothing?
Senpai, what's
Even
the
for
matter?
ordinary villagers,
Garashi shook
most
his head
of them
slightly.
were unwilling to admit
Nothing
this
you should
fact.
be careful. The
After
enemy
all,
this time
many
is
of them had
different
looked
from
down on the
before.
father and son duo. If such people were to become heroes, wouldn't it make them look like clowns? Relatively speaking, it is more in line with Woodleaf's political correctness to promote outstanding young ninjas like Garashi, Asma, and Mizuki. Therefore, the current outcome was actually not bad. Guy thanked him and rushed out. Dad, your youth has finally been rewarded. You are now a Tokubetsu Jonin. What? I am a Tokubetsu Jonin? Mado Dai sat up in shock and then his face distorted. Oh. The people next to him were speechless. This guy really didn't have the aura of a strong person. In the conference room, Jiraiya rubbed his chin and asked. The 7th gate of the Hashimantanku can let a genin exert strength beyond a jonin. Sensei, should we let more people try to practice the Hashimantanku? He knew about the Hashimantanku, but at most, there were people who opened the 5th gate, so it naturally didn't attract enough attention. Do you think that just because Mado Dai practiced the 7th gate, it means that others can also practice the 7th gate? Sandaime shook his head slightly and looked at Mado Dai with eyes full of amazement. This requires a strong perseverance for more than 10 years. Not to mention ordinary people, even you may not be able to do it. More than 10 years to practice a ninjutsu, and there is a high probability of success? Jiraiya was speechless. This price is really too high. The most important point is that they also know Mado Dai's performance in this incident. If it wasn't for Garashi's control, maybe he wouldn't even be able to kill a jonin. Such a performance really can't arouse their interest. Of course, this is also because they don't know the power of the last gate, otherwise they wouldn't be so indifferent. Orochimaru asked. Sensei, should we now discuss the distribution of these ninja swords? Of course, but... Sandaime looked at Garashi with a smile. Since they are spoils of war, they should be distributed by the people who bring them back. Hearing this, the jonins looked at Garashi with fiery eyes. In addition to their own strength, at least 1/3 of the reputation of the 7 legendary swordsmen comes from their swords. If they can get a ninjutsu, maybe they can be as famous as the 7 legendary swordsmen. Garashi smiled. Before that, I hope that my teammates can get 2 of the swords first. The jonins looked at each other, but they didn't say anything. Although they feel that it's a waste for a chunin to use a ninja sword, the right to distribute the sword is still in the hands of Shueisha. Not to mention that the probability of getting a ninja sword is small, but there's no chance at all. Yunnan stronghold. What did you say? Reikage asked in disbelief. 5 of the 7 idiots were killed by Shimizu Garashi? Dodai smiled bitterly. Although it sounds incredible, it's true. 2 years, I waited for 2 years and didn't do anything. I just wanted to let Woodleaf's people relax their vigilance. Reikage cursed. This is good, Woodleaf will never give us a chance. After saying that, he felt that it was still not enough to vent his anger. Not only did they not kill anyone, they even lost 5 of their own. Are they rushing to Qingxue Shushi's death? In fact, we underestimated him. Dodai's face was serious. He has been willing to be a support in the past 2 years, hiding his light under several others, but even so, he has made a big name for himself. I also had a serious look in his eyes. I've long felt that this guy isn't simple. He always has a calm look on his face as if there's nothing that can make him worry. Maybe this bastard is still hiding his strength. Killer B had a suspicious look on his face. Big brother, have you been rejected by him too many times and you're traumatized? Reikage squinted his eyes. I have the demeanor of an admiral every time, so am I hiding my strength under? A clenched his hands and shouted. Believe me, the most dangerous person on this battlefield is that kid. Dodai asked. Aisama, do you have any evidence? A said confidently. Of course, it's my intuition as a man and an opponent. Reikage's mouth twitched and changed the topic. That kid is now a big deal and we don't need to talk about killing him anymore. Dodai asked. Then what's our attitude towards Kirin? Of course we will take revenge. Reikage murderously said. He dares to steal things from Yunnan, don't he know that we will only enter and not leave? I endured it before for the sake of cooperation, but they can't even do such a small thing as assassination, so there is no need to keep them alive. He did have the confidence to say this. Their Yunnan and Woodleaf have been fighting for 2 years, not to mention suffering losses, they rarely even fell into a disadvantage. On the other hand, Kirin was defeated in just 2 days on the battlefield. Such a waste, what qualifications does he have to cooperate with them as one of the 5 great ninja villages? Chapter 161. Kirin Stronghold. The Kirin ninjas in the stronghold were panicking, obviously frightened by the sudden bad news. Are you kidding me? 5 of the 7 ninjas died? And they were defeated by a child? Impossible, I don't believe it. Shimizu Garashi? That guy is a monster in human skin. Hearing their lamentation, Violet Knight covered her mouth and elbowed Empress Shomiai. Are they talking about the Shimizu Garashi who took the Chunin exam with us 2 years ago? Empress Shomiai sighed. Who else could it be? He's too dazzling. Violet Knight's tone was full of amazement. 2 years ago he swept away the geniuses of the entire ninja world, and now even the 7 legendary swordsmen are not his opponents. Empress Shomiai nodded in agreement. When their eyes were still limited to the younger generation, Shimizu Garashi's opponents had become famous ninjas of the previous generation. This gap was so big that she didn't even have the heart to catch up. In the temporary headquarters, the Mizukage, who has always been indifferent and calm, was infuriated. Damn Shimizu Garashi, not only did he kill my people, he even dared to take away our Kirin's ninja swords. And that damn Reikage, he didn't even know the enemy's information in 2 years, he's simply a waste of waste. I will not let you go. Compared to the death of the 5 ninja swords, what made the Mizukage more distressed was the loss of the 5 swords. The 7 legendary swordsmen, there are swords first, then there are 7 swords. If the 5 swords were not lost, as long as 5 jonins were selected for a period of time, a weakened version of the 7 legendary swordsmen would be created. Raiga and Fugu lowered their heads guiltily, pretending that they didn't hear it. You can't beat Reikage, you can't catch Shimizu Garashi, you can only shout here. After venting his anger, the Mizukage looked at him coldly. Is that Shimizu Garashi really that powerful? Watermelon Mountain nodded heavily. That guy is a monster. In a one-on-one fight, no one in Kirin is his opponent except for you, Mizukage-sama. Raiga agreed. According to Yunin's information, he's fast, self-healing, proficient in all kinds of ninjutsu, and has strong combat awareness. Other than his explosive power, he has almost no shortcomings. Moreover, he has now made up for his only shortcoming. Watermelon Hill said again, that's right. That guy is a hexagonal warrior without any shortcomings. Raiga continued, I suspect that this is all part of Reikage's plan.
He already knew that Shimizu Garashi was terrifyingly strong, so he deliberately sent us to our deaths. Otherwise, why don't we hold Minato back while Brother AB ambushes him? Of course they had to flatter him. Otherwise, wouldn't it seem like they had failed miserably? Besides, that guy was indeed too strong. Hearing their flattery, the surrounding jonins were horrified. Why did they feel that Shimizu Garashi was a big demon? The Mizukage frowned slightly. Was it really Reikage who set a trap for him? Was it revenge for their action of plundering Yunin a few days ago? At this moment a Chunin hurriedly ran in and said, "Mizukage-sama, it's not good. Yunin's army is attacking us. They said that they want us to spit out all the loot we took back." What? The Mizukage's eyes widened and he barely opened them. Sure enough, it's this old guy who set us up. Damn it, I must let them see the power of our Kirin. The group of jonins was a little anxious. How could they fight Yunin in their current state? But before they could dissuade him, they heard the Mizukage continue, "Get on the boat, go around Yunin's back and attack their home." Everyone suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. As expected of Mizukage-sama, he was insidious. Rock Crypsis Village. 7 ninja swordsmen. Shimizu Garashi. Anoki sat on a raised chair and tapped his fingers on the table. Yunin's group of idiots really raised a monster for Woodleaf. Kitsuchi on the side also looked dignified. If he encountered this situation, the best result would be that he would be killed after killing 2 or 3 enemies. But Shimizu Garashi killed 5 of the 7 ninja swordsmen and scared 2 of them away. It was simply incomprehensible to him. 2 years ago he was just promoted to Chunin, but now he can kill Jonin like cutting melons and vegetables. How much experience did Yunin give him? Magic Leech's mouth twitched wildly. He had no doubt that he would die if he fought against Shimizu Garashi now. Taking a deep breath, Magic Leech looked excited. In fact, this is also good. The stronger he is, the more useful our spies will be. Anoki's eyes lit up. Is it that little guy from Kusanagi? Is he reliable? Magic Leech said confidently, "Absolutely reliable." Anoki nodded with satisfaction and warned, "Don't use this pawn easily. With Shimizu Garashi's talent and achievements, he is likely to be a candidate for Naruto in the future. A spy placed around Naruto is even more useful than a war." Magic Leech said loudly, "Yes. Let's leave Shimizu Garashi to Reikage and Mizukage to worry about. Our task now is," Anoki said in a deep voice, "try to win over Hanzo the Salamander, and try to contact the monster in the desert." Sand Crypsis Village Infirmary. More than a dozen Sand Crypsis ninjas were lying on the hospital bed in pain, and the medical team was busy treating them. Raza asked in a serious tone, "Is the antidote ready?" The medical team member wiped the sweat on his head. "I'm sorry, Kazekage-sama, the complexity of this poison is far beyond our ability." Raza turned to look at the side. "Chio-senpai, how is your progress?" However, Chio seemed to be distracted and just quietly looked at the injured ninja's wound. "Chio-senpai, Chio-senpai." Chio looked up. "I'm sorry, I can't help." The medical team member was surprised. "How is that possible?" "Chio-senpai, you are the strongest medical ninja in Sand Crypsis." "I'm not a medical ninja as a puppeteer, I'm better at poison." Chio said coldly. "As for detoxification, Woodleaf's little girl is much better than me." Raza asked softly, "Princess Katsuyu Tsunadeheim?" Chio's expression was calm. "Aren't we now allies with Woodleaf? You can choose to ask them for help." But Ebizo poured a bucket of cold water. "Sister, how long have you not paid attention to the situation outside? The number of people poisoned by Woodleaf is no less than us." Chio said, "Oh, then they can't be saved. Wait for death. Goodbye." Chapter 162. Just when the atmosphere in the room was a little dull, Marky ran over with a shocked face and reported, "Kazekage-sama, there is important information from the spy." "Important information?" Raza quickly entered a state of alert. "Is it Rock Crypsis again?" Marky shook his head. "It's information about the battlefield between Woodleaf and Kirin." "The battlefield between Woodleaf and Kirin?" Raza frowned. What does this have to do with the Sand Crypsis? But then he thought about it. Woodleaf is an ally, and Kirin attacks from the south from time to time. Their information is not completely unrelated. Therefore, Raza asked patiently, "What is it?" Marky tried to suppress the shock in his heart and said concisely, "Kirin sent the 7 legendary swordsmen to intercept and kill Woodleaf's Shimizu Garashi, but 5 of them were killed by the other side." When his voice fell, the room was dead silent. Not to mention Raza, even the Chio siblings who didn't pay attention, and even the ninjas of the medical class were shocked. The 7 legendary swordsmen are not unknown in the Sand Crypsis. On the contrary, because they lead teams to plunder from time to time, several of them can be said to be notorious in the Sand Crypsis. Because of this, when everyone heard that the 7 legendary swordsmen besieged one person and finally killed 5 of them, they were so shocked. Shimizu Garashi, is he the one who became famous in the Chunin exam 2 years ago? Are you kidding? He was just a Chunin 2 years ago. By the way, didn't Marky also become a Chunin in the exam 2 years ago? Yes. Marky, did you also hide your strength? Hearing these voices, Marky was depressed. He is a normal human being. Why was he always being compared to monsters? Raza frowned. Something's not right. He clearly knows that Shimizu Garashi knows the Flying Thunder God technique. Why would Kirin still send people to kill him? Marky explained, according to the intelligence, it seems that Shimizu Garashi brought a group of burdens and was forced to fight the enemy to the death. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched when they heard that. Was that something a human would say? He had no choice but to kill 5 of the 7 ninja swordsmen. In that case, the 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja blade were really sinful, forcing others to kill them. Raza rubbed his eyebrows. In other words, he killed 5 of the 7 legendary swordsmen under the burden of a group of burdens? Marky nodded hesitantly. That seemed to be the case, right? He was too shocked at that time, so he ran over after taking a glance. Everyone was shocked, speechless. He could kill the 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja blade under the burden of a group of burdens. Was Shimizu Garashi not the reincarnation of the Sage of the 6 Paths? At this time, Ebizo suddenly asked, Shimizu Garashi seems to be the disciple of Princess Katsuyu, right? Raza woke up. You mean we should ask him to come over? Ebizo nodded slightly. Since his strength is so strong, his medical ninjutsu as his profession should not be too bad. Raza took a deep breath. Marky informed the intelligence team to send a message for help. The border of the country of Kawa. It's the hexagonal warrior Shimizu Garashi, run. It's obviously the great evil demon king. Isn't it the blade of light that cut the fog? Looking at these Kirin ninjas who didn't forget to correct his name, Garashi said helplessly. How many nicknames did they give me? Conservative estimate, more than 20. Asma said enviously. Damn it, I also want to be nicknamed by the enemy. Mizuki glanced at him. Didn't someone call you Asma the Smoking Ghost? Asma said gloomily. This nickname has no momentum, and if I say it too much I'll get beaten up. Garashi laughed. Well, let's finish the mission quickly and go back. Since Kirin's army fled to the sea, the Kirin ninjas who were patrolling outside at that time were unlucky. They were almost reduced to the point of earning points for them. Perhaps they heard the cries of the Kirin ninjas as they fled. Several injured ninjas rushed out from the bushes. Would Leaf-sama please help us? Garashi looked at them and asked tentatively. Are you ninjas from Hoshi village? Several ninjas nodded again and again. We are the expeditionary force sent by the village to participate in the war. When we were fighting with Frost ninjas, we were scattered by Yunin's ninjas. They were a little angry. Everyone was fighting with each other and the boss was fighting with the boss. What's the point of fighting with the boss? Do you think we don't know how to ride your leg? In that case, take us quickly. Garashi wasn't worried that it was a trap. The Sandaime went to fight with Reikage. In this case, no one on the battlefield could stop him. It's the enemy that needs to be worried. Do we just go like this? The ninjas seemed a little hesitant. They have a lot of people. Asma looked at them strangely. Didn't you hear what the Kirin shouted when they fled? Several ninjas touched their heads. We heard it, but we didn't understand what it meant. Asma sighed. Oh, it's really embarrassing to introduce ourselves like this, but who told us to be so good? Listen, Wow. It's Garashi-sama. We are. Get out of the way, don't block the way. Seeing several ninjas crowded in front of Garashi, Asma said with a sad face. Oh, I knew it would be like this. Soon, Garashi and the others found some ninjas on the other side of the forest who were fighting with the enemy. At least in the eyes of Garashi and the others, this battle was indeed a bit painful to watch. A C-class ninjutsu seal took more than 10 seconds, and the two sides only used a few ninjutsu back and forth. What? You can use the great fireball jutsu so skillfully. Look at my great water ball jutsu. Damn, if it wasn't for my peacock secret jutsu. Seeing the frost ninjas fighting in full swing, Woodleaf and the others couldn't help but join the battle. After 30 seconds the battle was over. The rest of the ninjas came over and thanked them. Thanks to Woodleaf we would be in trouble today. Asma said sympathetically. You don't even have a chunin? It's too much for Star to let some of you go to the battlefield. As if he was humiliated, the leader of the ninjas argued with a red face. I am a jonin, they are all chunin. Chunin jonin? Asuma was shocked. These guys who could barely use C-class ninjutsu were chunin and jonin? He felt that these shinobis might not even be able to defeat him when he was a genin. Seeing the awkward atmosphere, Garashi hurriedly said, there should be other companions scattered in your village, let's hurry up and continue to look for them. The jonin stopped Garashi and said, please be careful, I feel that Yunin may not be here at Frost's request. A group of woodleaf ninjas had a strange look in their eyes. Yunin didn't come at Frost's request, is it possible that she came specifically to catch them? Chapter 163. Is this Yunin's purpose? Although the other party's words seemed to be a little self-righteous, Garashi didn't ignore his opinion. After all, there's nothing wrong with being careful. Thank you for reminding me, I will be careful. Garashi nodded seriously and said with a sincere tone, we young people are still too shallow, if Senpai finds anything, please remind us in time. Seeing Garashi speak so seriously, Southern Shizuhoshi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Since joining the war he has dealt with many woodleaf shinobi, and although those people didn't say anything he could still feel their disdain and contempt. Their strength is weak and their background is weak, even as an ally, it's difficult to get the corresponding respect. As expected of the legendary Light of Woodleaf, he can still maintain humility and respect for us, the ninjas of small villages. Southern Shizuhoshi thought in his heart and solemnly promised, we will do our best. Soon, Garashi and others found several other scattered groups of Hokage troops. However, they weren't as lucky as Southern Shizuhoshi. With the participation of Yunin, ordinary Hokage ninjas were no match for them at all, and several battles were almost one-sided massacres. When they were found they were already heavily injured. Damn Yunin, I will never let you go. In the name of Hokage I will take revenge on Yunin. Southern Shizuhoshi and others had tears of blood in their eyes. Today's losses were almost comparable to the total losses of the previous 2 years. After all, ninja wars were originally based on small teams probing each other, and there were few large-scale conflicts. Even the few large-scale wars were fought with Woodleaf and Yunin as the stage. Small ninja villages like theirs were never the protagonists of war. If they really suffered heavy losses they would have withdrawn long ago. They are sparing no effort to hunt down Hokage, are they trying to intimidate and threaten our allies? Garashi couldn't help but think in this direction, there were more small countries standing on Woodleaf's side than Yunin, and if these small countries didn't dare to participate in the war, it would indeed be more advantageous for Yunin. However, Yunin has always been arrogant, they don't even put Woodleaf in their eyes, the position of a few small countries shouldn't be enough to make them lose face. Is it because of Hokage's meteorite, or their ability to fly? Just as Garashi was thinking like this, the sound of fighting came from the distance. In the forest, a group of Hokage ninjas were fighting with the enemy. Unlike other battlefields, with the help of a flying ninja in the sky, Hokage was in this battlefield as the upper hand. Damn it, this woman is so strong she's not on the same level as the other shinobis. After all, he's a genius from the Chunin exam 2 years ago. It's not surprising that he has such strength. Hokage, Aishurwa, ninja geniuses, everyone hold on, Ai-sama and Bai-sama will be here soon. Xia Rixing, who was flying in the sky, had a dignified expression. If it's the A and B brothers, her air superiority won't play any role, the gap in strength between the two sides is too big, at most she can guarantee her own escape. Wait a little longer, don't come now. But sometimes, the more you worry the more likely it is to happen. In the next moment, the A and B brothers appeared in her sight with a dozen Yunin ninjas. It's over. Xia Rixing's heart was cold and she immediately shouted, everyone run away, I will cover you. However, it didn't care about the Hokage ninjas on the ground at all, he just stared at Xia Rixing in the sky. Good luck, I caught another one. B, get ready to launch. Got it, big brother's shuriken? With that, B's right arm muscles bulged and he threw A into the sky. Whoosh! A lightning arc appeared around A's body, and like a thunder arrow, it tore through the air and shot towards Xia Rixing. What's that? Xia Rixing was startled, she didn't have time to react, she could only barely turn her body sideways. The thunder passed by her side, and after smashing one of her light wings, it rushed into the sky without slowing down. Xia Rixing, who lost one of her wings, fell to the ground. Fortunately, her light wings were chakra, and they quickly recovered. Xia Rixing, who was still in shock, finally reacted, their target is me?
Boom. A fell straight from the sky and plunged into the ground upside down. Just as everyone was wondering if he had fallen to his death, AI pulled himself out as if nothing had happened to him. This guy's reaction is quite fast. A squinted his eyes. He relied on this trick several times before to kill 3 Hokage ninjas. He didn't expect that this time the opponent actually dodged it. B, it's your turn this time. A twisted his neck, rubbed his hands and said, create a few more clones, I will throw multiple shurikens. Killer B looked to the left with a dignified look, a troublesome guy is coming. In the mottled shadow of the trees, Garashi came out with his team and a large group of red-eyed ninjas. The scene was quiet, and Yunin ninjas who were still fighting quickly stopped fighting and retreated to A and B's side. Almost everyone's eyes were focused on Garashi and the AB brothers. Amazing. Xia Rixing's eyes were full of splendor. Just like 2 years ago, this man seemed to always be the focus of the crowd. Is this the deterrence of Woodleaf's light? Southern Shitzi and others were also shocked. They naturally didn't think that their arrival made Yunin retreat. In the eyes of the real strong, the advantage of numbers has long been not so big. In this oppressive and silent atmosphere, A couldn't help but ask, what, do you want to fight? Garashi said calmly, you should have heard about the battle between us and the 7 legendary swordsmen, right? You want to use this to scare me away? A's eyes were full of ridicule. Don't joke, we are not the same as those 7 pieces of trash. He and B are endurance ninjas with high defense and blood, and the tactics used to deal with Kirin can't be used on them. Garashi didn't deny it. Yes, I can kill them in a short time, but I can't kill any of you. Then why are you talking this nonsense? But I can kill everyone else before you break through the barrier. You? A's eyes widened and 2 white smoke came out of his nostrils. If it was only him and B, he wouldn't mind fighting with them. But in this situation he really can't hold on. Garashi said, look at the eyes of those who trust you, do you want to take them to death? A subconsciously looked at his companions. Although his eyes were firm, they inevitably showed a trace of panic. His chest rose and fell and finally he gritted his teeth and said, everyone retreat. Many young ninjas who had just joined the battlefield looked at this scene with excitement. The famous A and B brothers of Yunin were scared by Garashi's few words and they fled. It was really amazing. However, Southern Cross Star and the others couldn't help but ask, why didn't you leave them behind? They retreated because they didn't know the effect of the barrier. In fact, our barrier can only trap them for a minute, and this is far from enough time for you to move. When they escape, they will definitely take revenge on you. And I am only one person and I really can't protect your safety. Hearing Garashi's explanation, Southern Cross Star said unhappily, so we are the ones who are holding them back? After Cloud's side left, AI Kai couldn't help cursing, why is it that bastard again? Can't he go and harm the Mist Village? Killer B sighed faintly, just finished. Thinking of the 7 ninja swordsmen, A's mouth twitched. Although it's not perfect, we can only launch it in advance. Tell those Kanjin that it's time to show their sincerity. Chapter 164. In fact, it wasn't just Garashi, the entire forest was stirred up because of Yunin's sudden attack. No matter how slow a person is, they can see that Yunin came prepared. Asma asked with a dignified look, Garashi, what do you think Yunin is doing? Even the AB brothers were dispatched because of Hoshino. With the strength of the 2 of them, it is indeed a bit unreasonable for them to come here to deal with Hoshino. At this time, Natsuya Rixing came over. I'm sorry, I want to explain that their target doesn't seem to be all Hoshino but some of us. Compared with other Hoshino, her characteristic is that she has cultivated the miraculous peacock technique to the point where she can fly. But why would they need to specifically target flying ninjas? Could it be that Hoshino contacted them? Garashi wasn't sure. However, it's true that Hoshino and Woodleaf have a deep hatred for each other. It's reasonable to say that at this point in time, they shouldn't have resurrected the so-called Zero-Tailed, but who can say for sure about the time? If it's really Zero-Tailed, it's reasonable that they feed on the negative emotions born in the war. Garashi pondered for a moment and suddenly asked, how many of the Hoshino ninjas on the battlefield can fly? Natsuya Rixing organized her words. The flight mode requires the cultivation of the miraculous peacock technique to a very high level. Among the companions on the battlefield, there should only be 7 who have reached this level. Garashi looked at the large team behind him. Although I also hope that my guess is wrong, with so many people gathered together, we have to be prepared in advance. Kurenai was puzzled. Garashi, what are you talking about? Garashi looked up at the sky.
I'm worried that they will attack from the sky.
The sky.
Asma stared. How is this possible? Is it Yunin's flying force formed after taking in the Hoshino's defected ninjas? Garashi shook his head slightly. There's no time to continue explaining. Let the ninjas who are proficient in earth release come and dig the underground air raid shelter with me. By the way, remind the main camp personnel to pay attention to hiding. If there is an air raid, they will definitely be the focus of the bombing. Needless to say, Garashi's team had long since taken Garashi's words as the standard. As for Hidden Star's members, they had benefited from the previous rescue operation, so no one questioned his words. Therefore everyone quickly took action. Main camp. After receiving the information, Takan Yamanaka quickly reported it to Orochimaru. Air raid? Orochimaru's eyes narrowed slightly. Are they descendants of the Air Kingdom? After experiencing the Second Shinobi World War, Kuroto naturally thought of this answer. Because at that time, it was Konoha that destroyed the Sky Country. Give the order, everyone scatter and hide. Don't gather together. Yamanaka Kaze was surprised. You decided so quickly? If the air raid doesn't happen, maybe it will make everyone dissatisfied. After all, everyone is already very tired. Orochimaru laughed. At this time, how can we hesitate to think about it? Let's choose to believe in Garashi. Soon everyone in the main camp began to move. At this time there was no way to explain to everyone. They could only rely on the prestige of Orochimaru and Garashi to convince everyone. Therefore many people still had some complaints in their hearts. However, when the bombs fell from the sky and the fireworks bloomed in the main camp, these complaints turned into gratitude. The same scene happened in an underground air raid shelter in the forest. Everyone who hid in the air raid shelter looked at Garashi with grateful eyes. Fortunately, Garashi saw through Yunin's conspiracy, otherwise they might have suffered heavy casualties again. However, Shushi didn't care about their gazes. He just thought to himself, I didn't expect it to be a void ninja. Although I don't know if they have resurrected Zero-Tailed, I might be able to plant a seed in advance. When they are about to complete it, I will harvest the fruit. Mekkei said gloomily, where did those bastards in the sky come from? My taijutsu can't hit them at all. Kurenai said seriously, the book seems to have mentioned that they seem to be sky shinobi who were destroyed in the Second Shinobi World War. Asma's eyes lit up. Since they can be destroyed, it means that their tactics must have loopholes. Kurenai quickly recall how did they fail at that time. Kurenai said weakly, Senpai seemed to have rushed directly into their base camp. No matter how good their aerial combat is, they can't throw bombs at their own home. Asma was dumbfounded. Then they don't have a home now, so they don't have any weaknesses? Actually, it's not difficult to deal with them under normal circumstances. Garashi explained, there are two main ways to attack Sky Shinobi. One is to use wind release to attack from a distance, and the other is to throw bombs from the sky, and both of these methods need to be achieved by lowering their flying altitude. Guy wondered, do they need to lower their altitude to throw bombs? Because of the accuracy problem. Garashi said, bombs cost a lot of money, and they can't afford to bomb them randomly. Once their flying altitude is lowered and they enter the range of attack, we have many ways to shoot down the enemy. For example, let the Nara clan bind their shadows, the Aburame clan destroy their aircraft, or even directly use genjutsu. Everyone on the side trembled when they heard this. They once fantasized about using their air superiority to develop Hoshi into the 6th shinobi village, but now it seems that fortunately they didn't court death. Asma said excitedly, then the next step is to wait for them to lower their flying altitude and then counterattack? That's why I said under normal circumstances. Garashi shook his head slightly. If I'm not wrong, the production cost of these bombs may be paid by Yunin. Of course, they have no psychological burden to spend other people's money. In other words, we may not be able to deal with them like we did in World War II. Guy said frantically, then what should we do? Can we only hide in the cave and not go out? Didn't Yunin already point out the solution to us? Garashi looked at Xia Xing and said, although I'm sorry, the only way now seems to be. Xia Rixing naturally understood what Garashi meant. There are many ways to take people into the sky, but it doesn't seem to be a good way to fight. In other words, she can only be a mount? Thinking of this, Xia Xing's face was hot. But she still reluctantly kept calm and said righteously, as long as we can get revenge on Yunin, I have no problem here. If the topic is about revenge, it doesn't seem so awkward. Garashi's face was sincere, and there was no trace of impurity in his eyes. Then I'll leave my safety to you. Seeing Garashi's pure eyes, Xiaxing secretly blamed herself. Garashi gave his life to her, how can she let her imagination run wild? Chapter 165. Art is an explosion. Look, what a beautiful firework. It's a pity that we're flying too high. We can't hear their cries. Even if you can't hear them, don't lower your altitude. Don't forget how we lost the last war. I know. It's rare to have Yunin as a sucker. I haven't had enough fun yet. 600 meters in the air, a group of ninjas were happily chatting and laughing. But at this moment, one of the ninjas looked down in confusion. It looks like someone is flying towards us. Is it one of our companions? That's the forehead protector. No, it's Woodleaf's ninja. How dare he fly in the sky? Don't he know whose domain the sky is? Kill him. After noticing the movements of the ninjas, Garashi immediately formed a hand seal. Illusion, confusion. Because of its formless nature, the range of illusion is always the highest among the same level of techniques. Almost instantly, all of the ninjas in the sky were hit by the illusion. Garashi, is it really okay to use illusion? What if someone breaks free from the illusion? Summer Star's worry was not unfounded. Illusion is very useful in a one-on-one fight, but if it's a group attack, as long as one person breaks free, it's possible for everyone else to break free. Don't worry. My illusion is not something a group of ninjas can break. Garashi was very calm. Even the 7 legendary swordsmen and the A and B brothers were afraid of his illusion. It's impossible for these ninjas to break free. In order to maintain his gentlemanly demeanor, he didn't straddle Summer Star. Instead, he knelt on his back. That's good. Summer Star whispered, then wondered, aren't we going to kill them? Of course not. I'm still waiting for them to return the favor to Yunin. Garashi snapped his fingers. Then the group of ninjas turned around and flew towards Yunin's camp. Illusion can reach this level? Summer Star was shocked. Generally, illusion is used to disturb or attack the enemy. But Garashi's illusion is used to forcibly control the enemy. It even allowed the ninjas to retain their consciousness to control the aircraft. This meant that the difference between the mental strength of both parties was ridiculously large. From this point of view, Garashi is already the most powerful genjutsu ninja she has ever seen. It's only because their resistance to illusions is too weak that I can control them so easily, Garashi explained with a smile. That's still very powerful. Xia Rixing praised from the bottom of his heart. Even if the enemy's strength was weak, their numbers were still there. To be able to control so many enemies at once, he could definitely be called an illusion master. Garashi smiled and said, let's continue. If you want to give Yunin a gift in return, this little bit of patience is not enough. Xia Rixing also collected his thoughts and said excitedly, understood. At Yunin's position. Can't these bastards throw more accurately? AI held up the binoculars and cursed with gritted teeth. Those space ninjas weren't throwing bombs, but Yunin's blood, sweat, and money. After this battle, I'll have to rob, collect some protection fees. AI Jing sighed as he heard the ninjas around him whispering. Why did this group of space ninjas return so quickly to resupply? Damn it, they must have deliberately intercepted some of the bombs. What, they even dare to take our Yunin's rebates? Are these space ninjas tired of living? Let me take a look, who is it? AI held up the binoculars and was about to write down a name in his notebook, but suddenly his pupils shrank violently. What do these bastards want to do? Damn it, everyone pay attention to scatter and hide. Unfortunately, his reminder was still a little too late. Before anyone could react, bombs exploded on their campsite. Why are there bombs? Damn it, those space ninjas betrayed us. The group of Yunin ninjas was completely unprepared. After a round of attacks, broken limbs and pieces of flesh were everywhere. The smell of burnt flesh mixed with the smell of blood filled the air. Seeing this tragic scene, A was so angry that he almost went crazy. These space ninjas actually used Yunin's money to bomb them. Use your Baijidamas to get rid of these bastards. Understood. The next moment, the huge body of the Hachibi appeared and waved its tentacles to slap the space ninjas. At the same time, Baijidama was shot into the sky. The bombs ignited on the ground, and the Baijidama set off an energy storm in the sky. For a moment, the whole battlefield was in chaos. In the distance, looking at the chaos in Yunin's camp, Xia Rixing was very happy and asked eagerly, Garashi, do you still want to continue? Garashi shook his head slightly. The other space ninjas have already noticed our movements, it won't be so easy to quietly approach them. Is that so?
Xia Rixing was a little depressed. She still wanted to continue to retaliate against Yunin. Garashi continued to analyze, seeing that they are in a hurry to return. They probably know that they have offended Yunin, so they want to go home and hide again. Xia Rixing was relieved. In other words, the crisis is over? Although they won easily today, it was based on the fact that the enemy didn't know enough about the range of Garashi's genjutsu. If they didn't give them a chance to approach from the beginning, then today's outcome would be very difficult to predict. In a short time they shouldn't dare to come out again. Garashi said, however, letting such a dangerous enemy lurk in the dark is a hidden danger. Garashi, what are you going to do? Xia Rixing asked. I'm going to sneak into their team and follow them to find their nest. Garashi's tone was calm, as if he was talking about a trivial matter. That's too dangerous. Halfway through his words, Xia Rixing started to laugh. Those space ninjas are only good at aerial combat, but with their strength, it's impossible to pose much of a threat to Garashi. To be precise, the dangerous ones should be the enemy. After calming down, Xia Rixing asked again, but how can you sneak in? That's simple, I'll have to trouble you to find a hidden place to land. After landing in a valley, it didn't take long for another space ninja to land. Then, he dismantled the equipment in front of Xia Rixing's surprised eyes. Garashi, are you going to pretend to be a space ninja? After being surprised, Xia Rixing asked with some worry, but isn't this too risky? After all, it's your first time coming into contact with this aircraft. It's nothing more than the control of the wind attribute chakra and the coordination of the body. I still have some confidence in these two aspects. Garashi took out a kunai and twirled it. Even if it's not enough, I still have this. Thinking of Garashi's Flying Thunder God technique, Xia Rixing was relieved. Unfortunately, I don't know much about wind release, so I can't move forward with you. Thank you very much, leave the rest to me. Garashi stepped on the rock wall and walked to the top of the valley, then he jumped and directly glided out. Looking at Garashi's back, Xia Rixing whispered, a hero who can create miracles is someone like you. If it's you, you can definitely save Star Village. Chapter 166. On the way back, a group of shinobis were cursing. Are Jebbies and the others crazy? They even offended their customers. That's right, where can we find such a fool in the future? Offending Woodleaf and Yunin at the same time, it's estimated that only Rock Crypsis will dare to hire us in the future. It's hard to say, that group of idiots ruined our reputation. Just as they were complaining in dissatisfaction, a lone ninja flew towards them in an aircraft. Wait a minute, let's talk about the code first. A shinobi shouted vigilantly. The shinobi shouted fanatically. Sweep the 5 countries. Hearing the other side accurately say the code, the shinobi who spoke subconsciously responded. Dominate the ninja world. Although he already got the answer from other shinobi, Garashi was still speechless when he said it. Should he say that these people are ignorant or fearless? However, the rest of them were very happy. Ah, sure enough, it's a brother. It's also our fault for being too cautious. How can a ninja from the outside world be so skilled in flying? Garashi didn't use genjutsu to directly control the other party, because the essence of genjutsu is deceit. Sometimes, language is even more reliable than genjutsu. After all, genjutsu can be removed but language can't. It's more difficult to make people believe that they have been deceived than to deceive them. Especially for these shinobi who have lived in the underground ruins for a long time, their social experience is almost zero. After a heart-to-heart talk, everyone quickly became familiar with each other. Under the deliberate guidance of Garashi, almost everyone confided in him, and many people even took the initiative to help Garashi become the next leader of the shinobi. That's why I said there is no need to use genjutsu at all. Garashi was indifferent in his heart. Deceiving this group of naive and cute shinobi is as difficult as deceiving Asma when he first entered the ninja school. Well, their EQ is only at the level of a 5-year-old child, no more. It didn't take long for the information they knew to be leaked. Even the color of their underwear was revealed. In this information, Garashi discovered a piece of information that he had previously overlooked. The war preparation started 2 years ago. Is it because of the Chunin exam? If this is the case, Garashi wouldn't be surprised. After all, the situation at that time was complicated, and Woodleaf's energy could only be focused on the other 4 ninja villages. It's not surprising for the Sky Ninjas to take back the Zero-Tail Resurrection Scroll that was taken away by Woodleaf after the destruction of the Sky Country. They chatted happily along the way. When they arrived at the ruins, everyone still waved their hands reluctantly. Brother Naruto, You must remember to visit us more often in the future. Naruto responded with a smile, and then followed him into the ruin. Beep. Number 2233, please enter the password. This password was provided with the aircraft, so Garashi was naturally prepared. Ding. The verification is correct. Number 2233, welcome home. In the central control room. Lord Shinong, that's what happened. Some of the traitors suddenly attacked Yunin indiscriminately. Hearing this news, Shinong's first reaction was that it was impossible. He brainwashed his clansmen. Everyone thought that the Sky Ninjas were honored to sacrifice themselves, and it was absolutely impossible for them to betray them. Is it Genjutsu? Being outside all year round, his knowledge was indeed much better than other Sky Ninjas, and he quickly thought of this possibility. However, even if it's Genjutsu, Yunin and those reckless people won't listen to my explanation. Forget it. Shinong shook his head slightly. Let everyone come back. The revenge operation is temporarily cancelled. Thanks to the brainwashing, his subordinates didn't have the slightest doubt and immediately responded. Yes. After his subordinates left, Shinong walked to the control hub behind him and looked at the wriggling meatball in the hub with blurred eyes. What a wonderful power. Unfortunately, this level of darkness can only resurrect you. But at this moment, the meatball suddenly made a sound. Who are you? Strangely, Shinong didn't seem to hear its voice and he was still talking to himself. Instead, a voice came from the empty position beside him. Sure enough, it's not enough to simply manipulate the five senses. I have to manipulate the perception of chakra. Well, I have to continue to improve it. Although I don't quite understand what you mean, you should be an enemy. Since you are an enemy. Zero's body suddenly skyrocketed, and his voice was sharp as he laughed. Then become my nutrients. However, Shinong suddenly became furious. How dare you bite me? Don't you understand who is the master? Shinong's hand seals were formed, and Zero rolled and roared in pain. Ah, how can this be? Because in his eyes, the person you are attacking is not me. Shinong didn't seem to know what he heard, and with his anger still lingering, he opened a secret compartment from the stone pillar next to him and took out a scroll from it. But in the next moment, Garashi took the scroll from his hand and looked at it with interest. Shinong didn't notice it at all, and his face was filled with anger. It seems that I have to add another seal on you. Seeing this absurd scene, even Zero, who feeds on darkness, felt an inexplicable fear in his heart. Who the hell are you? He couldn't see the other party, and even the voice was deliberately spoken for him. In this case, even if he could sense the existence of chakra, it would be useless. Garashi didn't answer him but flipped the scroll and said to himself, a very old seal, it seems a little outdated. What do you want to do? In the blink of an eye, Shushi had seized Zero Tail's first authority and then completely hidden it. After howling in pain, Zero looked in a certain direction with eyes full of fear. Master. But even so, Garashi still didn't show himself, but sat calmly on the throne. Tell me how you were born. Garashi was indeed interested in Zero's ability to devour negative emotions. In his impression, the ability of the monster in the box of bliss in Ghost Lantern City that could read people's minds seemed to be similar to Zero's. Sorry, Master, I can only truly retrieve my previous memories after I am completely resurrected. Zero answered in fear and trepidation. Garashi didn't force it, just like how he didn't open the box of bliss 2 years ago. Some things shouldn't be rushed. Seeing that there was no sound, Zero, who thought that its master was angry, became anxious and directly bit off its body, throwing out a part of the meat to curry favor. Master, my body can convert negative emotions into chakra. You can treat it as a chakra converter. Saying that, it added, this part of the body has no consciousness, it will definitely not reveal your secret. Garashi chuckled. You are considerate. Seeing that its master wasn't angry, Zero was relieved. Master, is there anything else I can do? Guard this place for me. Shushi stood up and walked toward the outside world. Before the Sky Throne's empty window ends. He was very much looking forward to the moment when this flying fortress named Anchorbandian rose into the sky. After confirming that the chakra had disappeared, Zero was relieved. Obviously, his means are more terrifying than anyone I have seen, but why? The chakra I sense from him is incomparably bright. Could it be that the extreme of darkness is light? It was because it sensed this that it was so fearful of its new master. It was just a beast that devoured darkness, but its master was the king that controlled the darkness. Thinking of this, it looked at Shino with disdain. Compared to this stupid waste, the new master is the one who can truly control my power. Chapter 167. In the control room, Shino looked at the tamed Zero Tail with a hint of pride in his eyes. Humph? Are you afraid now? Zero Tail directly went into a deep sleep, otherwise, it was afraid that it would laugh out loud. Seeing that Zero Tail was afraid, Shino nodded with satisfaction. Then, the hint left by Garashi in his subconscious mind began to work. This time, I came into contact with Yunin as Shino. In the future when I'm outside I'll have to change my identity. Well, I'll call myself Amaterasu. Also, the subbase that I contacted Yunin before must be blown up as soon as possible. I'll shrink my strength and go into hiding again. I'll wait until the next war to truly resurrect Zero Tail. This world will eventually succumb to this old man's ambition. Ho 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 ho. Outside. Garashi looked at the underground ruins and fell into deep thought. This sky fortress should be more exquisite and elegant. Garashi knew very well that he obtained this sky fortress in order to show off, at a certain moment in the future and weave a lie. He didn't care much about the power of the sky fortress itself. In addition to this sky fortress, this part of Zero Tail's body can be considered an unexpected surprise today. Garashi played with the piece of meat in his hand and thought to himself. The battlefield was the easiest place to collect negative emotions. With this chakra converter he would not be lacking chakra before the end of the war. However, he was a little curious about the principle of this chakra conversion. Chakra is a mixture of physical and spiritual energy. Negative emotions can be said to be spiritual energy, but where does this physical energy come from? Could it be that such a small piece of flesh can provide almost unlimited physical energy? Thinking of this, Garashi remembered a guess he had before. Everyone has chakra in their body and this chakra is extremely huge. Ordinary people who don't know how to refine chakra can also fall into the infinite Tsukuyami and be affected by the illusion. This shows that ordinary people also have unknown chakra in their bodies. Dedale's chakra had been consumed, but he could still erupt with a strength far beyond his peak. Moreover, the 8 inner hidden gates allowed the user to instantly erupt with dozens of times their own strength. This also proved the fact that the untapped chakra in the human body was far more than the refined chakra. The difference was almost equivalent to the difference between crude oil in an oil field and processed oil. The former was abundant but difficult to use, while the latter was scarce but highly efficient. In fact, in Garashi's opinion, the Edo Tensei's so-called unlimited chakra was only a relative term. Compared to the amount of chakra that could be refined on a daily basis, the Edo Tensei could indeed be considered unlimited. Otherwise, if chakra was really limitless, there was no need to fight the fourth match. Patrick Star could just keep self-destructing. As for whether the human body's potential was really that great, Garashi felt that it was not impossible. 1 kilogram of uranium-238 could release 20,000 megawatt-hours of energy when all of it was fissioned. Perhaps human cells could also excavate unlimited power. In that case, I might be able to use this part of Zero Tail's body to study the secrets of the body's energy. Back at the main camp. Great Garashi-sama is back. It should be said that our hero is back. Everyone looked at Garashi with fanaticism in their eyes. They now knew the general process from Summertime Star. Not only did he inform them in advance to resolve the crisis, but he also controlled the power of the Sky Ninjas to launch revenge against Yunin. In the end, he even sneaked into the Sky Ninjas' base of destruction alone. These deeds were simply like legends. No, it should be said that these were legends. After receiving worship, Garashi met with the other executives in the conference room. Sandame laughed heartily. You didn't see it. At that time, Reikage said to me with a serious face that Woodleaf had done too many bad things and was suffering retribution. In the end, the Sky Ninjas turned around and bombed Yunin, making him so angry that his nose was crooked. Jiraiya rubbed his chin and said regretfully, I missed such a scene. Orochimaru laughed. I benefited from Garashi-kun this time. I just believed in his judgment, but in the end I was called a wise general. Jiraiya's words were full of jealousy and he whispered, Wise general? I think it's more like an idiot. In this cheerful atmosphere, Garashi looked dignified. In fact, there were some mistakes in my operation this time. In the end, only a subbase was destroyed. Is that so? Sandame nodded and immediately comforted, Don't worry, you have done well enough. Without Yunin's support, it would be difficult for them to organize such a large-scale operation with their own financial resources. Orochimaru also laughed. Garashi-kun still likes to pursue perfection as before. Sandame knocked on the table and said with a serious face, Garashi, I may have to trouble you to go to the Western camp to support them. Western camp?
Well, the situation there isn't very good. Jiraiya looked strange. We didn't say anything when it was 1 against 2, why can't the Western camp fight 2 against 1? Sandaime took a puff of his pipe. The situation there is a bit complicated. On the one hand, Hanzo's attitude is very vague. Hanzo? Jiraiya looked dignified. Hanzo is indeed a strong man who can change the battlefield with his own strength, especially the poisonous fog of the salamander fish. It's a big killing machine on the battlefield. He has always had the ambition to develop hidden rain into the 6th shinobi village, and he often takes advantage of the battlefield when Woodleaf and Rock Crypsis are both injured to preserve their strength. Danzo and Inoki also know this, and naturally they don't want hidden rain to benefit from it. Orochimaru's eyes were gloomy. It's not an honorable thing to be given the title of Sannin by Hanzo. If it weren't for Hanzo's fear of Woodleaf and didn't want to completely fall out with them, maybe they would have already died. On the other hand, Sand Crypsis's attitude. Sandaime continued, Sand Crypsis is not willing to cooperate with us to take the initiative to attack. They will only resist when Rock Crypsis attacks. Garashi pondered for a moment and said, Danzo, San is worried that Sand Crypsis will save their strength and attack at the last moment? Sandaime nodded approvingly. Yes, between countries only interests are the most real. The so-called alliance is only effective when both sides don't intend to break it. It's also because of these constraints that Danzo's actions in the Western camp are difficult to carry out. Sandaime-sama spoke up for his good friend. And Shushi, your main task this time is to get the Sand Village to cooperate with us as much as possible. Naruto-sama, aren't you thinking too highly of me? I don't think I can make a ninja village change their stance because of me. Garashi sighed. Don't worry, there is an opportunity right now. Sandaime said with a smile. In the center of the land of fire, the land of earth, and the land of wind, a monster that uses poison has appeared. There are ninjas in all 3 camps who have been poisoned because of him, and Sand Crypsis has sent us a request for reinforcements. A monster that uses poison, is it Sasori? That seems to be the case. The battlefield is the perfect place for him to collect materials. After thinking for a while, Garashi asked again, but even if I save their people, it will be difficult to make Sand Crypsis change their stance, right? Sandaime nodded slightly. He didn't expect that dozens of ninjas would be able to change Sand Crypsis's stance. It would be more likely if the number was increased tenfold. Although the possibility of persuading them is not high, it is still an entry point. Maybe we can find the key to breaking the stalemate in Sand Crypsis. Garashi took a deep breath. I understand, I will try my best to do it. Chapter 168. In a dense forest in the Western Front camp. The distance between the 2 sides was getting closer and closer. One was chasing and the other was escaping. Damn it, they're going to catch up. Inuzuka-senpai, take the information and run. Inuzuka scolded coldly. Shut up, I'm not going to leave you behind. Having said that, the worry in her heart still lingered. She's a Tokubetsu Jonin with 1 Chunin and 2 Genin, and even a team of Jounin from the bird country. It's too difficult to escape from Rock Crypsis with such a combination. However, after touching the tool bag on her waist, she had some confidence in her heart. With the medical scroll and Kuramaru, at least there's a chance. I have to create an opportunity for them to send back information. Just as she made up her mind, a genin in the team suddenly exclaimed, Not good, there's an enemy in front. Inuzuka was startled and looked over. She saw a black spot in front of her rushing towards her at a very fast speed. This speed. Inuzuka was shocked. Even if it's just pure speed, the opponent is beyond her ability to deal with. But before she could respond, she heard a surprised voice beside her. It's Garashi-senpai. The person who was hurrying along was none other than Shushi. Although Shizune and Tsunade have his special kunai, his flying thunder god jutsu can't teleport them across the distance of the fire country. To be precise, it's not that the flying thunder god jutsu can't do it, but his perception ability can't do it. That's the Inuzuka clan's ninja? Garashi saw that the dog recognized people, so he sped up to meet them. The Jounin from the bird country, who thought there were reinforcements, was disappointed to see only 1 person. Only 1 person? Inuzuka glanced at him. Pelican Jonin, don't worry, Garashi is very strong. Although she didn't have any contact with him before, she also heard of his legendary deeds in the Eastern camp. A man who can remove the 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja sword will definitely have no problem dealing with a pursuing team. The pelican shook his head in frustration. The 3 of us can't beat the enemy. What's the use of 1 Jonin?
Inazuka Tsurugi couldn't help but twitch his mouth. How much water do you three jonins have? Don't you know? In the time it took for sparks to fly off a flint, Garashi had already arrived in front of everyone. Jonin Garashi you. Garashi looked behind them and said resolutely, I'll deal with these enemies first. We'll talk about the rest later. Seeing Garashi jump out with a whoosh, the three jonins of the bird country sighed endlessly. Sigh, young people are too reckless. He can't be saved. Let him do his best and buy us more time. Seeing how scary they were, a certain genin who wasn't very well informed about the battlefield also hurriedly said, I'll go and help too. Inazuka Claw hurriedly stopped him. Although it may be a bit hurtful to say this, the fact is that if we go out, we will only cause trouble for him. The pelican was puzzled. Cause trouble? Inazuka Tsurugi rolled his eyes at him. Garashi is a hero who turned the tide of war on another battlefield by himself. Even 5 of the 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja blade were killed by him. The pelican was still puzzled. It's just 5 jonins? Inazuka Tsurugi took a deep breath. In our Woodleaf's evaluation, Garashi has a powerful combat strength that can fight against 100 enemies. This time, the 3 jonins of the bird country were shocked. 1 against 100 enemies? Amazing. That Garashi-kun is actually such a terrifying powerhouse? Inazuka Tsurugi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The 7 legendary swordsmen of the ninja blade that could capture a small country together, in their eyes, couldn't even compare to an ordinary 100-man coalition army. Be careful of the dead 7 legendary swordsmen jumping out from the Pure Land to hack you to death. As soon as his voice fell, he heard Garashi's voice. It's not that exaggerated. In fact, I just happened to be here. The pelican asked in a daze, How did you come back so quickly? Garashi laughed. Of course it's because I killed all the enemies. The 3 jonins looked at each other and suddenly turned their heads to look behind them. They saw that the forest was already full of corpses. West Line main camp. Is the hospital in that direction? I got it, thank you. We should be the ones thanking you. It's all thanks to you that we can come back safely. After exchanging some pleasantries, Shushi walked toward the hospital. Ah. Garashi, senpai is really too handsome and too gentle. Destroying the enemy while talking and laughing, Garashi Jonin's strength is really terrifying. While the Woodleaf squad was excitedly discussing, the 3 jonins of the bird country finally woke up from their shock. So the strength of a jonin is this strong? In other words, we can also reach this level? Definitely, who isn't a jonin? Inazuka Tsurugi's eyebrows twitched. Hey, your thoughts are very dangerous. Temporary hospital. Phew. I finally did it. Shizen wiped the sweat on her forehead and said happily. Not bad, including Nanoyu, you are the 2nd person in our camp who can complete the detoxification surgery alone. Tsunade nodded approvingly. Shizen was a little embarrassed. If it was Garashi he would have done it long ago. Tsunade laughed. Compared to that little monster, it's purely looking for trouble. At this time, a familiar voice suddenly came from outside the hospital. It's so sad, I heard Sensei making fun of me as soon as I came. The 2 of them turned their heads in surprise and joy, just in time to see Shushi lift the curtain and walk in. Garashi. Shizen used evil rabbit pounces, and directly hung on Garashi's body. Seeing this, Tsunade sighed faintly. I should be the sad one, you came and took my disciple away. Hearing Tsunade's teasing, Shizen quickly jumped down, blushed, lowered her head and stood on the side at a loss. After teasing for a while, Tsunade asked seriously. You are not in a hurry to go to San Crypsis. Why did you come here first? Garashi's voice was serious. Woodleaf's companions are suffering, how can I leave them? Even if I have to treat them, I have to treat Woodleaf's ninja first. Garashi was very clear that his foundation was always on Woodleaf's side. If he left his poisoned companions and went to treat San Crypsis' ninja first, even if it was because of the mission, it would definitely dim his halo a lot, especially when a certain old man was spying on him, he needed to be more careful. As for whether someone would attack him for slacking on the mission, Garashi was not worried. The main reason why White Fang would be affected by the rumors was that he failed the mission. Whatever a successful person does is right, while whatever a failed person does is wrong. Therefore, Garashi only needed to ensure that he would not be blamed by his allies. And this was exactly what he was most confident about. After all, he knew San Crypsis' weakness. Chapter 169. After hearing Garashi's words, The patients and nurses in the hospital couldn't help but be moved. As expected of the pride of our Woodleaf, the first thing you think of is always our Woodleaf. Tsunade also nodded approvingly. Although she was a little disappointed with the higher-ups of Woodleaf, she still had a lot of feelings for the village built by her grandfather. Then let's start quickly. With you presiding over the surgery, the progress should be a lot faster. Garashi also quickly got into the mood. Sensei, how is the situation now? Tsunade picked up a reagent from the medical tray beside her. I have already formulated the antidote. However, their toxins have also invaded their internal organs. It requires a very high level of chakra control to use the solvent to suck out the toxins in the internal organs, and the only people in the hospital who can do this are Nanoyu and Shizun. Because of her fear of blood, Tsunade didn't mention herself. Garashi looked to the side with relief. In terms of pure medical ninjutsu, Shizun, you are already a jonin. Shizun still hadn't recovered from her previous shyness and whispered, in fact I'm still far from it, but my control is a little better than everyone else. Moreover, performing this kind of surgery is very taxing on my mind, and it will take a long time before the next surgery can be performed. Garashi wasn't surprised. Performing surgery requires a high level of concentration, especially this kind of difficult surgery. A surgery is no less than a battle. However, if no one demonstrates, does it mean that they have to do it directly? I'll do it. Nanoyu walked in from outside the hospital. Sister Nanoyu, Garashi greeted. The nurses in the hospital greeted her one after another. It was obvious that her prestige in the hospital was not small. Nanoyu responded to them one by one, then looked at Garashi and sighed. In the past 2 years, Garashi, you have grown a lot. Even in the Western Front camp, I often hear about your deeds. Garashi frowned. But Sister Nanoyu, you seem to have become a lot more haggard in the past 2 years. Inayu was startled and sighed. After witnessing too many deaths, it's inevitable that there will be some helplessness. With that said, she laughed at herself. However, compared to those ninjas who are fighting on the front line, my troubles are nothing. It's nothing more than the weak will of the soul. Alright, let's not talk about these disappointing things. Hurry up and start the treatment. If you stay here for too long, Garashi, our allies might protest. When he heard Yinayu's vague reminder, Garashi nodded seriously. 20 minutes later. Nonayu rubbed his swollen head. Garashi, how much have you understood? Garashi pondered for a moment. I think it should be all of them. Due to the strength of his soul and body, he won't be exhausted after 2 or 3 surgeries like other medical ninjas. It can be said that he has performed more surgeries on the Eastern Front than all of them combined. Fortunately, there were enough injuries during the war. Otherwise, the usual medical cases could not even satisfy his insatiable needs. However, it was also because of this that his experience in practical operations improved at a terrifying speed. Inayu was puzzled. You learned it in one try? Garashi nodded gently and took the reagent from her hand. Leave the rest to me. Before Inayu could stop him, she saw Garashi's smooth operation without a trace of sluggishness. Seeing this, Inayu couldn't help but stare blankly. Why do I feel that Garashi's operation is smoother than mine? Tsunade looked at Shizun with some worry. Then she saw someone looking at Garashi with admiration. Her eyes almost turned into the shape of stars. Oh, I'm actually worried about her? 17 minutes later, the operation was completed. Amazing. Jounin Shushi is really... Wait, what is Jounin Shushi doing? Performing consecutive operations? Doesn't Garashi need to rest? Seeing Garashi walking to the second patient without any pause, the nurses' little heads were a little overwhelmed. Is Shinobi Shueisha really that durable? 1 operation, 2 operations, 3 surgeries. Not only was Garashi not tired, but he was also more energetic. Even the time to complete the operation was constantly reducing. When the last operation was completed, everyone was a little bit in disbelief. The operation that troubled the entire hospital was completed in only 7 hours. Why did it feel a little unreal? The corner of Nanoyu's mouth twitched slightly. I think I understand why the Eastern Front has never mentioned any medical jonin reinforcements. They only need some chunin and genin. Is it because Shishiki alone can handle all the surgeries over there? The other medical ninjas muttered to themselves. I understand a qualified medical ninja should learn taijutsu and genjutsu. Without a strong body and tenacious soul, how can he perform surgery? The next day, Garashi woke up early energetically. Thinking of yesterday's operation, he still felt a little unsatisfied. It's a pity that I have to hurry to San Crypsis. Otherwise, I would be happy to perform other operations. This is not a waste of energy. The more operations he performs,
the more he understands the human body, and the smoother his subsequent biological experiments will be. In this world where lineage is paramount, biological science is the core technology, and its importance is far above any other science. Fortunately, there are a lot of experience points in San Crypsis, waiting for me to farm them. Garashi couldn't help but sigh. Orochimaru was also collecting materials, but he had to do it secretly and bear the risk of being hunted down. But not only did he collect materials openly, but he also gained the gratitude of others. This is the superiority of medical ninja. Just as Garashi was sighing with emotion, Oily Ryoma, Danzo's #1 follower, appeared. The other party came to him and invited him. Garashi Jonin, Danzo-sama invites you to come over. Danzo-sama? Garashi raised his eyebrows slightly, but he wasn't worried. Confidence comes from strength, and with the power and prestige he has now, there is no need to be afraid of the other party. Then please lead the way, senpai. In this silent atmosphere, Oily Ryoma led Garashi to a tent and let Garashi go in, while he guarded the door like a door god. Seeing Garashi come in, Danzo's eyes were blazing. Even on the other side of the land of fire, he often heard of this person's name. He reversed the situation of the battlefield with his own strength, and was even given the title of a hero. Compared with Garashi, his subordinates are simply chickens and dogs, there is no comparison at all. He should have been my perfect tool. Thinking of this, Danzo's eyes flashed with anger. It's all because of that bastard Hiruzen. Chapter 170. Noticing Danzo's perverted eyes, Garashi felt a chill run down his spine. Danzo-san, what can I do for you? Hearing Garashi's voice, Danzo recovered from his thoughts and nodded coldly. You cured those poison ninjas in one day, you did a good job. Garashi's expression was strange. He actually heard praise from Danzo? Danzo-san, you flatter me. This is what I should do as a medical ninja. Danzo was silent for a moment and then sighed. It's a pity that a heroic ninja like you will be excluded. Have you finally found your conscience? Shushi thought to himself. I don't understand what you mean, Elder Danzo, he said with a confused expression. You are still too young. Don't you understand why Sarutobi transferred you away from the Eastern Front? I know Naruto-sama asked me to win the support of San Crypsis. You believe this nonsense? How can San Crypsis change their attitude because of an outsider like you? Danzo sneered. He transferred you away from the Eastern Front because he doesn't want to see you perform any more meritorious deeds. Your performance has already affected his balance. Seeing the confusion in Shuishi's eyes, Danzo fanned the flames again. Time will make your heroic aura fade. When the war is over, you'll be nothing more than an ordinary ninja. Garashi thought for a while, shook his head and said, I think you are overinterpreting it, Danzo-san. Moreover, the same thing can happen from different standpoints. Maybe Naruto-sama wants me to become a hero here? Danzo sneered. Oh, the Western Front is a quagmire. If you want to become a hero here, it will be 100 times more difficult than what you experienced in the Eastern Front. That's great. Garashi was sincerely happy. I always felt that I was too easy to be regarded as a hero. This time I can make up for it. There really is such a person. Danzo subconsciously thought of Hiruzen when he was young. At that time, Hiruzen's light was so dazzling that he discovered the darkness in his heart. But it was precisely because of this that he hated these people. Without sunlight, he couldn't see the darkness in his heart. Thinking of this, Danzo was ashamed. It seems that you don't want to cooperate with me? Cooperation? I don't understand what you mean. This war has been going on for so long, and we still haven't seen the dawn of victory. The reason is Sarutobi's incompetence. Danzo's back straightened. His back. We should work together to overthrow Sarutobi's head. And replace his head's head. Naruto. Shushi was shocked. So, Elder Danzo, you came looking for me just to... Danzo nodded proudly. Yes, that's right, I want to. Let me be Narutobi. Narutobi, do it. Danzo was startled. Something's not right. Garashi waved his hand again and again. No, my qualifications are so shallow. How can I replace Naruto-sama? Danzo also reacted at this time. He was about to curse, but after hearing Garashi's refusal, he suppressed his anger. Think about it again. Who is more suitable to be Naruto? Garashi pondered for a moment. Mature, steady, decisive, and witty. Such a person can only be... Danzo listened and nodded. Isn't he talking about this old man? He didn't expect this kid to be so good at flattering, and telling the truth. Minato-san. Danzo's eyes widened. Think about it again? Is it still not enough? Garashi asked tentatively. What about Orochimaru-sama? Orochimaru is patient and not decisive enough. He is not a hero. What about Jiraiya-sama? Jiraiya-sama? He is not steady enough. He is not a hero. That sensei? Oh, a person with hematophobia wants to be Naruto? Garashi suddenly realized. I understand. Danzo-san, you told me so much to tell me that Naruto-sama's position is irreplaceable? Danzo slammed the table and said angrily. This old man. Of course it's this old man. Garashi blinked. Danzo-san, it's still daytime. Danzo was confused. Before he could say anything, he saw Garashi getting up and walking outside. It's getting late. I'd better hurry to the Sand Crypsis. Seeing this, Danzo didn't stop him, but his eyes were gloomy. Shimizu Garashi, you will regret this. Walking outside, Garashi shook his head helplessly. No wonder Danzo has always been suppressed by the Sandaime. Who would want to hang out with you if you only seek revenge without any benefits? At night. In a dark corner, Nonayu calmly walked in front of a certain mummy. Danzo-san. Danzo's back was facing her. Nanoyu, I have something for you to do. Nanoyu frowned, but she didn't object. Danzo-san, please speak. Shimizu Garashi came here as the medical logistics team. I want you to command him as the captain of the medical logistics team. Without waiting for him to finish, Nanoyu interrupted him. Sorry, I'm no longer the captain of the medical logistics team. Danzo hurriedly turned around. What? Nanoyu's tone was calm. I have made a request to Naruto-sama to let Garashi be the captain of the medical logistics team and the president of Woodleaf Hospital. You actually gave up these two positions. Danzo almost vomited blood. Nanoyu frowned. It's my freedom to do what I want. It doesn't seem to have anything to do with you, Danzo-san. Haha, good, it has nothing to do with me. Danzo was so angry that he grinded his teeth. Do you know how many people have been able to quit Root ever since its establishment? Nanoyu lowered her eyelids and whispered. Only me. Danzo snorted. Then do you know why you're the only one special? Nanoyu said. Because of my medical skills, Danzo-san, you want me to take charge of the medical team and give support when necessary. Danzo gritted his teeth. Then why do you still dare to do this? Nanoyu sighed. Because I'm tired. Now, I just want to be an ordinary person. Danzo narrowed his eyes. Have you ever thought about what will happen to you? If Elder Danzo wants to kill me, then just do it. Nanoyu's eyes are calm. If you want to kill me, then just do it. I'm not that stupid to kill a former captain of the medical team. Danzo smiled. But I heard that you opened an orphanage? Nanoyu's calm expression finally changed. She stared at Danzo. It's just some homeless children on the battlefield. Who knows? Maybe there's a spy sent by one of the villages. Danzo turned and walked into the shadows. In short, have a good dream. Next time you... While he was talking, Danzo suddenly froze and became angry. Did that kid mean that I was dreaming during the day? Damn it, I won't forgive him. Chapter 171. Outside Sand Crypsis village, yellow sand covered the vast sea. Stop quickly and report your name. A Sand Crypsis ninja standing on the city wall shouted. Woodleaf reinforcements, Shimizu Garashi. Garashi replied. The Sand Crypsis ninja who had already been notified compared the drawing, confirmed, I'll open the gate. It's really desolate. Taking advantage of this gap, Garashi looked around and shook his head. It should be easy to ask a person like First Hokage-sama to help with greening the village, right? Well, it's mostly because of his boring self-esteem. While sighing, the gate opened. A team of Sand Crypsis ninjas came out to greet him and respectfully invited, Garashi Jounin, please come in. With Garashi's current status, he can be regarded as a high-level Woodleaf ninja, so they naturally didn't dare to neglect him. Thank you. Garashi nodded. I'm already late, please take me directly to the village hospital. Yes. Along the way, many Sand Crypsis villagers pointed at them, wondering why Woodleaf ninja appeared in Sand Crypsis. While they were looking at Garashi, Garashi was also secretly looking around. Many villagers had a sickly complexion, and their bodies were thin and weak, completely unlike the appearance of 5 great villages. But Garashi wasn't surprised, because Sand Crypsis has always been poor.
The Kazekage of the first Hokage still cared about face, but when the second Hokage developed puppet jutsu to enhance the war potential, it also made the poor village even worse because of the construction of puppets. At the end of the Third World War, San Cripsus could only rely on betraying the hero Pakura to survive, and during the fourth Hokage, they fell to the point of relying on their boss to work outside. In a meeting in the original work, a ninja even mentioned that the economic source of San Cripsus at that time mainly relied on the fourth Hokage to develop new jutsu and mining gold. In the entire village, only the Kazekage could earn foreign exchange, which showed how poor San Cripsus was at that time. When Gaara was caught, they had completely given up resistance and chose to hug Woodleaf's thigh. In this case, it was too difficult to ask the poor San Cripsus to send troops. Garashi thought, if I want San Cripsus to send troops, I have to scratch their itch and poke their pain. San Cripsus Hospital. As soon as he walked into the hospital, he heard the nervous and panicked voices of the nurses, as if there was a fierce war going on inside. Not good, the situation of Bed 35's condition. Bed 20's whole body is black. Bed 19's patient's body's body tranquilizer jutsu. Seeing this, Cripsus' body was body. Tell me which bed's patients are in the worst condition. Garashi's voice seemed to be convincing, and the nurses around him replied subconsciously. Bed 35. Bed 26. Bed 7. Leave the three of them to me. Before the nurses in charge of these beds could react, Garashi sent 2 shadow clone jutsu to take over those beds. Wait, who are you? The young nurse was dissatisfied with the random person who took her place, and suddenly exclaimed, Are you Garashi-sama of Woodleaf? As soon as the voice fell, the infirmary was in an uproar. Garashi-sama who developed the medical scroll? Where is he? I heard that it's a great invention that can rewrite the medical system. For these medical ninjas, they don't care how many enemies Garashi killed on the battlefield. What they care about is Garashi's contribution to the medical system. The emergence of the medical scroll not only increased the survival rate of ninjas, but also reduced their need to go to the battlefield. The San Cripsus ninja who led Garashi here was stunned, pulled the sleeve of a nurse and asked. He is performing 3 surgeries at the same time. The young nurse who was carefully observing the surgery said impatiently. Oh, I know. The San Cripsus ninja was mad. Even if I'm not a medical ninja, I know that he can't do this, right? Of course, ordinary medical ninjas can't do this, but is he an ordinary ninja? The young nurse looked in the direction of the surgery with admiration. He is a legend among medical ninjas. This is equivalent to the top of the medical world, especially coming to a second-tier hospital to guide them. Of course they will be ecstatic. When Raza arrived with several consultants, looking at the 3 surgeries being performed at the same time, he also joined the ranks of doubting life. Ebizo asked in a trance, Sister, in addition to the 3 suns, flowing sword technique, does Woodleaf also have 3 suns, flowing sword technique? Chio gave him a blank look. Oh, do you think this is possible? It's because I think it's impossible, so I'm confused. Ebizo sighed. It's hard to say whether this kid's medical ninjutsu has reached the level of slut woman, but in terms of efficiency, he has definitely surpassed his sensei. Chio commented. Raza was envious. If he can maintain this high efficiency, he can work 3 jobs a day. Come on, work hard. Silently encouraging himself in his heart, Raza asked again, if we increase the investment in medical resources, is it possible to cultivate a medical ninja like him? Kazekage-sama, it's not dark yet. Chio said, the root of our San Cripsus's weak medical strength is not only the facilities, but also the education resources. Without a good teacher, it's too difficult to rely on self-study. It seems that after the war, it's necessary to exchange studies with Woodleaf. Raza calculated in his heart, and found that Garashi showed no signs of stopping, so he left. As the Kazekage, his time is very precious. After dealing with the affairs of the Kazekage, he still has to work. Because the time of poisoning was longer, the means of suppressing the toxin were weaker, and Garashi, who has more experience, spent more time than Woodleaf. He worked from 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock in the evening, and after experiencing a wave of good karma, Garashi finally finished all the operations. Sorry I delayed your time. Garashi smiled softly. No delay, no delay. Everyone shook their head again and again. How can such a good learning opportunity be delayed? At this time, a voice suddenly interrupted. Garashi Jonin, Kazekage-sama invites you. Marky couldn't help but sigh. 2 years ago he could talk to Garashi as an equal,
but now the status of the two is as different as heaven and earth. While sighing, Marky suddenly found that the eyes of the people around him were not right. Damn, I also want to ask Garashi-sama a question. The guy who is in the way quickly disappear. The little nurses glared at Marky. The development of San Crypsis medical skills is hindered by this guy who has no eyesight. Marky was dumbfounded. It's only half a day, how come the name of their San Crypsis hospital is about to change? Is it the rhythm of changing to Garashi Hospital? Seeing that the situation is not good, Marky decisively betrayed his boss. It's none of my business, I'm just passing on the words of Kazekage-sama. The little nurses had to give up, they still respect a certain Kazekage who works for them. Therefore they had to vent their anger on someone. One by one they gritted their teeth and muttered, Marky, right? Remember to wear a mask before coming to the hospital next time. Or slap your face in advance. Marky wanted to cry, is there any justice in this world? Chapter 172. San Crypsis Village, Banquet Hall. Garashi Jonin, thank you for your hard work. It's so late and you're still performing surgery. Raza sighed. How can it be hard? As a medical ninja, being able to realize my own value is something I'm looking forward to. Garashi smiled. As expected of the light of Woodleaf, this awareness really makes us feel inferior. Raza said with emotion. He could feel that the other party wasn't just saying that, but he was really happy from the bottom of his heart. After sighing with emotion, he pointed to the banquet and said, Garashi Jonin, you've been working hard all day, hurry up and eat more to replenish your strength. Otherwise, people will say that we San Crypsis don't know how to treat guests. Garashi nodded, then I won't be polite. While toasting, a San Crypsis ninja suddenly whispered a few words in Raza's ear. Then Raza's expression became lonely. Oh, did Kankuro also fail? Seeing this, the surrounding ninjas comforted him. Kazekage-sama, don't worry, even if he didn't directly awaken, Kankuro is likely to learn magnet release in the future. Besides, Kazekage-sama, you're still young, you can have another one. Seeing Garashi's puzzled face, Raza took the initiative to explain, I learned magnet release from the former Kazekage, but unfortunately, there is no second person in the entire San Crypsis who can learn magnet release. If I'm unfortunate enough to die in the war, Sand Village will be in trouble after losing the gold placer mining. Therefore, I hope that my descendants can awaken the Kekkei Genkai of magnet release. Garashi wasn't surprised by this. Although Raza's ancestors didn't have Kekkei Genkai of magnet release, when he learns this Kekkei Genkai, magnet release will become a recessive gene lurking in his blood. This is also the origin of most Dojutsu Kekkei Genkai clans, such as Rock Crypsis's Lava Release Clan and Yunin's Mist Release Clan in the Fourth Shinobi World War. It's no wonder that Raza has maintained the rate of having one child a year since the beginning of the war. It's just that the last one took a little longer to brew. Garashi sighed in his heart. Raza's ninja may be the way to work. It's not enough for him to work, but he also wants his children to work. Looking at other people's expressions, if Raza was still pure and innocent during the war, ninjas would have jumped out to accuse him. Alas, our San Crypsis is really too difficult. Garashi's eyebrows twitched wildly. He took the initiative and continued the topic with a sigh. Alas, our Woodleaf is also in a tough spot. Like Elder Danzo, he worked hard for Woodleaf all his life and now he's still alone. I can't stand it anymore. Raza had a constipated look on his face. Who told you about having a baby? This was an extension. Do you understand extension? Originally, he wanted to portray him as a Kage who had to use his children as tools. But now, it's like he's a winner in life who became a Kage at a young age? Ha, I seem to be. Raza suddenly woke up. Compared with Woodleaf who wanted to be a Naruto but couldn't, he seems to be a winner in life. However, even if his thoughts were disrupted, Raza still forced himself to continue. Yes, it's not easy for everyone. So, can your village provide us with a long-term loan? Isn't this turn of events a little too abrupt? Shushi thought helplessly. Is he going to beg instead of acting pitiful? Garashi pondered for a moment. I don't have the right to decide this, but Elder Danzo is a close friend of Naruto-sama, and Naruto-sama has always been concerned about Danzo's marriage. If Kazekage-sama can help solve this problem, maybe Naruto-sama will be happy and agree? Raza was puzzled. I can help solve this problem? Garashi looked at Ebizo on the side and said tentatively, is your village's Chiyo-san interested? Chiyo was too lazy to join in the fun, otherwise he wouldn't dare to make such a proposal. This time, it was Raza's turn to be dumbfounded. He knew how difficult it was to deal with Chiyo. If he really went to persuade her, she wouldn't care whether he was the Kazekage or not. Although this was only Garashi's personal proposal, Raza knew that if he couldn't do this, Naruto would have a reason to refuse without hurting their relationship. Ebizo thought seriously. If someone can suppress my sister's temper, it seems good. Of course, the premise is that Kazekage-sama should bring more antidotes. Seeing Garashi kicking the ball back into his own hands, Raza couldn't help but sigh. He was really worthy of being the person that Naruto thought highly of. He was too difficult to deal with. Seeing Raza lost in thought, Garashi said, "In addition, there is actually another solution." Although Raza instinctively felt that it was another trouble, he still asked, "What is it?" "Kazekage-sama, another mission I came here for is to ask you to officially send troops to fight. If you are willing to send troops, Naruto-sama will not be stingy with the loan." Raza's eyebrows twisted into a mess. He wanted supplies, but he didn't want to send manpower. After a moment of struggle, Raza sighed. "Alas, our San Cripsis is too difficult. We have the largest territory and the longest line of the 5 major countries, but we may have the least ninjas. We can't take the extra force to cooperate with your village to take the initiative to attack." Ebizo echoed. "In addition, our San Cripsis's important combat power, the Ichibi's Jinchuriki Fukusan, is very old. He can't go to the battlefield, and we have to be careful of the Ichibi's rampage." Raza finally reluctantly said, "How about we send 50 elite ninjas from San Cripsis?" "Jounin? Chunin?" Without waiting for Garashi's response, Raza asked again, "By the way, when will your Woodleaf support arrive?" The surrounding Jounin looked at Raza with moved eyes. The Kazekage-sama was really working too hard. For the development of the village, he didn't plan to lose face at all. "Let's pretend I didn't say this." Garashi sighed and asked, "Kazekage-sama, can you send a team to the desert with me to find the enemy this time?" Raza hesitated. "That guy is very strong. Shouldn't we wait for the poison people to wake up and ask for information before dealing with him?" Garashi shook his head. "We can't wait. Every day we wait, more of our companions may be killed by him." Those poison ninjas were lucky. Most of them were killed by the enemy on the spot. Seeing Raza still hesitating, Garashi added, "Don't worry about poisoning. I brought enough antidotes this time. It should be enough to deal with the enemy." Not only in his previous life but people in this world also like to compromise. If he directly asked for cooperation to kill the enemy, Raza may not agree, but if he proposed to send troops, they would be willing to deal with the enemy. Although the situation this time is a bit different, considering that he just rejected Garashi's proposal, Raza didn't want to embarrass the other side too much. With the cooperation of a top medical ninja like Garashi, he didn't think there would be any problems. Therefore he agreed. "When are you going to start?" "Tomorrow." Garashi certainly has to hurry up. If the poisoned San Cripsis ninjas wake up and reveal the identity of the enemy, the San Cripsis won't let him participate in the internal affairs of the village. Now that the decision has been made, Raza no longer hesitated. "Okay, I will let Pakura take a team to cooperate with you." Chapter 173. The next day early in the morning. Garashi was waiting at the gate of the city early in the morning. When it was nearly 8 o'clock, a young female ninja with a bun on her head came over with a team of ninjas. "You are Garashi, right? Sorry to keep you waiting." Looking at the boy in front of her, Pakura was a little surprised. Unlike her who was touted as a hero, this boy proved himself as a hero on the battlefield of Yunnan with countless achievements. Of course, she didn't think that she was much weaker than him. "If the village takes the initiative to join the war, I can definitely do it." She was so active this time because she secretly wanted to compete. "Actually, I haven't been here for long." Garashi smiled gently and looked at the ninjas behind Pakura. "Can you introduce me?" "They are Jonin Zhong Liang, Jonin Sand, Chunin Marki." In addition to Pakura, there were 2 Jonins and 8 Chunins. In the eyes of anyone other than Garashi, such a force was more than enough to deal with a wandering ninja. But in Shushi's opinion, among these people only Pakura could be of some use. The others were probably just salted fishes who would cry out for help. But it doesn't matter. The only reason I brought them along was to let them witness the truth. Thinking of this, Shushi distributed the antidote with a bright smile. "Although you are all elites of San Cripsis and dealing with a wandering ninja is certainly not a problem, but for the sake of safety you should bring these antidotes. Consider it as a reward for protecting me, a medical ninja."
These Sand Crypsis ninjas couldn't help but have a good impression of Garashi. His medical skills were strong, his attitude was good, and the most important thing was that he spoke well. Only Marquis secretly complained, "Medical ninja? The fiercest one among us is probably you, a medical ninja." Bakura also took the antidote and asked, "What should we do next? Should we split up to find the enemy?" "No, it's too dangerous for them to split up," Zhong Liang said with a good feeling. "Let's use my sand eye." Sandstone touched his right eye. "As long as my eye flies high enough, I can clearly see the terrain within a few hundred meters. Let me summon the desert fox and use its hearing to find the enemy." "What's the point of hearing? Do you know what kind of sounds the enemy will make?" Seeing that they were arguing fiercely, Garashi shook his head and said, "Leave the sensing to me." "Give it to you?" Sandstone wondered, "Aren't you a medical ninja?" Garashi laughed, "I occasionally work as a sensor ninja." "How's your perception range? If it doesn't work, let me use the sand eye. There are too few life forms in the desert. Even when I listen to the sound of all things, I can only sense a small portion of the desert." "Less than half of the desert?" Sand and Stone had a suspicious look on his face that said, "Don't lie to me, I'm not well educated." "There's no harm in trying." Garashi smiled and sat down. 5 minutes later, the immortal's face appeared. "Is this the legendary sage mode?" Pakura looked at him with interest. Garashi squatted down and inserted his right hand into the sand. After a while he stood up. "Did you find the enemy?" "Although I didn't find it directly, I found some rock Crypsis ninjas' corpses in the northwest direction. Maybe I can try to find it from there." The Sand Crypsis ninjas around were stunned. Really? He could perceive so much information just by inserting his hand? What would happen if he inserted his hand into someone's body? Would he even know their measurements? How many ninjutsu they know? Gobi Desert. "You are Sasori of the Sand Crypsis? Damn it, this is a trap." The rock Crypsis ninja who was covered in blood said with grief and indignation. Sachikage-sama asked them to come in contact with him. Wasn't this asking them to die? Sasori wasn't interested in explaining anything to the dead. He just calmly killed them and began to make puppets. 137th collection, I guess. At the same time, the Sand Crypsis ninjas came to the Gobi Desert under the guidance of Garashi and saw someone who was searching their corpses with his back facing them. Seeing Garashi find the enemy so easily, the Sand Crypsis ninjas couldn't believe it. Not only medical ninjutsu but even his perception is so strong? It's a little bit better than my sand eye. Because Garashi took on the task of perceiving, the Sand Crypsis ninjas who didn't contribute much were a little embarrassed. "Haha, leave it to us. Garashi-sama. Just enjoy the battle of our Sand Crypsis ninjas." Seeing them so active, Garashi was embarrassed to argue with them and stepped aside with a smile. "Then it's up to you." After saying that, they used the sand hiding technique to sneak over. But the closer they got to the enemy, the more they felt something was wrong. This guy's back looked a little familiar. At this time, Sasori, who was dealing with the enemy's corpse, turned around. "I hate being disturbed in the process of creating art, even if it's my former companions." He hasn't made any puppets yet, so naturally he was recognized by everyone at a glance. Shocked, everyone stopped hiding and jumped out from under the sand and stones. Zhong Liang said in a deep voice. "It's you, Sasori of the Red Sand." Sand's tone wasn't so good. "Sasori, it's you who killed your fellow villagers. This time, even Elder Chio won't be able to protect you." Sasori's eyes were very calm. "Idiot, do I have to say it myself to understand the fact that I betrayed the village?" Although they had already guessed it, when they heard the answer from Sasori, they still couldn't understand. Why would a person like you betray the village? Damn it, what did the village do to you?" In their view, if Sasori didn't betray the village at that time with his talent and background, it's even possible for him to compete with the Kazekage. Scorpion tilted his head and gave a stiff smile. "I don't care what the reason is. Just take it that I'm tired of this boring house game." Zhong Liang asked coldly. "Let's put the betrayal aside first. I ask you, do you know the whereabouts of Sandame-sama?" Sasori said frankly. "Yes, I know, I killed him." Zhong Liang subconsciously sneered. "Sandame-sama is the strongest Kazekage in history. How could he be killed by you?" Sand's face was gloomy. "There should be a limit to boasting. That's why I hate to communicate with you mediocre people." Sasori sighed and his eyes were calm. "Enough nonsense, let's send you on your way." Although they knew that the enemy was the former super genius of the puppet unit, the Sand Crypsis ninjas didn't panic too much.
because they didn't find any puppets around Sasori. No matter how powerful a puppet master is, without a puppet the threat will be reduced by more than half. Therefore, instead of retreating, they quickly approached Sasori. Catch him directly. Don't give him a chance to summon a puppet. Chapter 174. Sasori calmly raised his right hand and opened his fingers as if he was plucking the strings. Seeing this, Zhongliang and Sandstone became vigilant. Could it be that Sasori's puppets are still hidden around? As soon as the two slowed down their pace, they heard a slight sound behind them. They didn't have time to think about it and subconsciously dodged to the side. The next moment, several wind blades flew past where they were originally, and the remaining momentum split the rock in front of them into two halves. That was close. At the same time, the two of them turned around in fear and saw Marky and the others attacking them with astonished expressions. What's going on? My body doesn't listen to me. Get out of the way. I can't control myself. Seeing this, Sandstone looked at Sasori with shock and anger. You are controlling them. Sasori said calmly. Do you have to ask the obvious? Exercise human body manipulation. Under Sasori's control, the 8 Chunin even exerted strength far beyond their own level, and Zhongliang didn't dare to hit them too hard, so they had the upper hand for a while. At this moment, 2 big flowing fireballs crossed the battlefield, and the sound of broken strings was heard. The 8 of them staggered and finally regained control of their bodies. The 8 of them who regained control of their bodies immediately hid far away from Sasori, looking at him with eyes full of fear. This ability to forcibly control the body is terrible. Sure enough, it's still a bit troublesome to control a living person. Sasori shook his head slightly. Under normal circumstances, his chakra threads are not so easy to attack. He looked at Pakura again. Are you the hero Pakura who was praised by those high-level people after I left? Why, what advice do you have for a traitor? Pakura also looked dignified. With the lethality of her scorch release, she encountered a lot of obstacles when burning those chakra threads. As expected of the genius who shocked the entire Sand Crypsis before her. Even if he is much younger than her, his strength seems to be far above her. Fortunately, there are no puppets around him. Sasori looked up and down at Pakura with appreciation of art. If it weren't for his pure eyes, Pakura would have thought that she met a pervert. Scorch escapes bloodline inheritance? Not bad, looks like I can have another proud collection. As he spoke, Scorpion raised his hands. Chakra strings extended from his fingertips, controlling the 10 rock Crypsis ninjas on the ground to stand up. Seeing this, the Sand Crypsis ninjas were shocked again. Being able to control 3 or 4 puppets at the same time is already considered a jonin. Simultaneously controlling 10 puppets. Only the legendary first-generation puppet master and Elder Chio were able to do it, and Scorpion was able to do it at such a young age. This is already the pinnacle of puppeteers, able to control a corpse with a single finger. How terrifying! As expected of the genius of the puppet troupe. Although he was controlling 10 corpses at the same time because there was no resistance, these corpses were more flexible than the previous 8. No matter how Pakura's big fireball chased after them, there was no way to burn those chakra lines. Seeing this scene, the rest of the Sand Crypsis ninjas reminded him, Pakura-sama, we will block these corpses, you attack his body. Yes, the biggest weakness of puppeteers is their own body. They didn't intend to ask Garashi to come out and help. On the one hand, they talked big before, and on the other hand, they didn't want Woodleaf to intervene in the internal affairs of Sand Crypsis. Even the defected ninjas need Woodleaf's help to clean them up. It would be too shameful if word got out. Pakura nodded, her eyes sharpened. She used the big fireball to open a path in front of her while she rushed towards Scorpion. Scorpion opened his mouth and spat out a few poisonous needles, which Pakura easily dodged, then accelerated her sprint. Although the distance between her and Scorpion was getting closer and closer, Pakura had a faint premonition in her heart. The other party was too calm, except for the poisonous needles at the beginning. He didn't make any resistance, which was really not the performance of a genius. However, she didn't have time to think about it. Scorch release, steam kill. Then, something that Pakura couldn't understand happened. The trick that could instantly evaporate the opponent and turn them into a dried corpse actually failed. Taking advantage of Pakura's shock, Scorpion's hand chopped down. Puppeteer using taijutsu? Pakura was confused and subconsciously raised her kunai to block. Then, in front of her incredulous eyes, Scorpion used his palm to break the kunai, and without any reduction in power, he chopped towards her forehead.
It's over. Just as Pakura was about to close her eyes and wait for death, a handsome back appeared in her sight. In the next moment, Scorpion was sent flying by a punch. Sir Garashi. Pakura exclaimed in surprise and joy and immediately saw Garashi's hand dripping blood. Your hand? It's fine. Garashi quickly made hand seals, then put his left hand on the injured right hand. The wound healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. That's good. By the way, how did you? Pakura suddenly realized, is it because of the antidote? Sorry, those potions have my Flying Thunder God technique on them. While explaining, Scorpion stood up from the gravel ground. What a hard fist, I wonder if you're a human. I should be the one saying that. You shouldn't be a human now, right? Hearing Garashi's question, the surrounding sand crypsis were inexplicable. Not a human? Was it a tailed beast that fought with them? Scorpion sighed softly, life is too fragile and insignificant, just a little wave can make a fresh life disappear. Sand crypsis asked loudly, what are you trying to say? Scorpion pressed his forehead and laughed, humans have limits. From my short life I learned a truth, the more I resist death, the more I will find the fragility of life, unless I surpass human beings, so I'm not a human anymore. With that, Scorpion lifted his upper body. A mechanical window opened on his lower abdomen, and a steel cable stretched out from it, and behind him, a spiral blade flashed with cold light. Pakura asked in horror, You transformed yourself into a puppet? Sand and stone swallowed his saliva with difficulty. Lunatic, this guy is a lunatic. It's okay to be ruthless to the enemy, but the other party is even more ruthless to himself. Scorpion wasn't angry at their reaction, he just sighed calmly, artists are always lonely, and I don't expect mediocre ninjas like you to understand the true meaning of art. Zhong Liang and others' mouths twitched, they have no interest in understanding this so-called art. If there's no joy in being a human, what's the point of living? Thinking of this, their eyes couldn't help but glance at Scorpion's lower body, he wouldn't have transformed it into a weapon, right? Chapter 175. Noticing their disrespectful gaze, Sasori was dissatisfied even though he was no longer a human. What an annoying gaze. Sasori opened his mouth and spat out thousands of poisonous needles. Compared with the number of poisonous needles that attacked Pakura before, the difference was like heaven and earth. Sand Crypsis's scalp was numb. Wind release Great Breakthrough. Wind release True Void Jade. Scorch release Chakra Flame. However, only the three of them had time to make hand seals, and the range of the technique couldn't protect everyone. The rest of the ninjas who were still making hand seals could only look desperate. They were going to become hedgehogs. Right at this moment, a huge soft worm descended from the sky and pressed them down with the force of Mount Tai. Summoning Jutsu. Ouch. I'm being attacked, I'm going to die. Hey, it's poison, then it's okay. Katsuyu? Sasori was no stranger to this. In the last Ninja World War, it was Tsunade who caused a lot of trouble for his grandmother. Several Sand Crypsis ninjas stretched out their heads from under Katsuyu's body and gasped for breath. I'm going to be crushed to death. How rude, how can you say a girl is heavy? Katsuyu angrily stretched out many small hands from her body. Tickle attack. I was wrong, haha. Sasori looked at the group of idiots speechlessly, then he no longer paid attention to them and turned his attention to Garashi. Do you have to intervene now? I want to save you, the best material for the final modification. Should I say that it's my honor? Sasori commented seriously. You don't have a Kekkei Genkai, otherwise, you can even become the proudest work in my collection. Garashi sighed. Forget it, I can't appreciate your art. It's okay, maybe you'll like it after you die. With that, Sasori took out a scroll from the equipment bar behind him. After all, the enemy is a famous hero on the battlefield of Yunnan, it's a bit disrespectful to use the same method to deal with you. Hearing Sasori's words, the Sand Crypsis ninjas were still a little angry. He had even used the pinnacle techniques of the puppet masters. How could he have the nerve to ask them to play? However, when Scorpion summoned the puppet from the scroll, they were completely speechless. Countless puppets were flying in the air. There were probably more than 100 of them. Crimson secret technique, 100 machine demonstration. Impossible, this must be an illusion. The number of puppeteers can be counted on one hand. How can he control so many puppets at the same time? It wasn't that they didn't think that someone could break the limit, but even if they wanted to break the limit, they had to follow the basic rules. Even if they counted their toes, they would only have 20 puppets at most.
These hundreds of puppets could be said to have completely overturned the system of puppet masters. Fortunately, they didn't bring any puppeteers with them this time. Otherwise, they suspected that the puppeteers would betray them after seeing this scene. Scorpion flaunted proudly, "What do you think? My art is passable, right?" The Sand Crypsis ninjas couldn't answer. They really couldn't give a false evaluation of this masterpiece that exceeded the limits of puppeteers. Garashi rubbed his hands and said, "Hundreds of puppets, all of them are broken. It must be troublesome to repair them." Scorpion was stunned for a moment and immediately chuckled, "Oh, worthy of being Woodleaf's hero, your tolerance is indeed much better than theirs." As soon as he finished speaking, the puppets flying in the sky began to move. Of these hundreds of puppets, Scorpion divided 10 to deal with the ordinary Sand Crypsis ninjas, 5 to deal with Pakura, and the rest all rushed to Garashi. Seeing this, the Sand Crypsis ninjas were ashamed and angry. A Sand Crypsis ninja only used a small part of his energy on them. "Damn it, we are really being underestimated. Controlling so many puppets at the same time, it's impossible for him to use all of them. Protect Garashi. Yes, priority is to protect the medical ninja." Before he could finish his sentence, they saw Shushi destroy a puppet with a single punch. It turns out that these puppets are so fragile. Sandrock's eyes lit up and he directly rushed up. "Don't go." Before Marky could finish his words, he saw Sandrock flying back with blood spurting out of his mouth. With his strength as a jonin, he shouldn't be so embarrassed, but he attacked the puppet's body. Of course he was looking for trouble. When he looked at Garashi again, Sandrock's eyes were not right. What kind of medical ninja is this? He's clearly a super beast. On the other side, 3 puppets have been broken under Garashi's feet, which made Scorpion feel a little sad. Is this Sage Mode? Didn't you say that Sage Mode needs to be charged? Garashi didn't have time to answer Scorpion's doubts. Although in the one-time Sage Mode, as long as he doesn't open 5 gates and doesn't use Sage Mode casually, he can still maintain it for a relatively long time, but he also knows that Scorpion still has a big killer in his hand that hasn't been used yet. It's best for him to conserve his strength as much as possible. "Oh, then let me see the power of Sage Mode." Scorpion whispered, controlling the puppets to shoot poison needles at Garashi from all directions. Senbenzada Shigure. He can see that Garashi's perception in this state is very sensitive, and a strong single attack is likely to be dodged, so he uses an area attack that the opponent can see and can't avoid. Although the attack power of these poison needles is not strong, the poison on the needles is very fierce. "As you wish." Garashi closed his eyes and attacked the puppets with Chakra's perception. As time went by, Scorpion felt more and more that something was wrong. Not only Senbenzada, but his puppets were also poisoned. According to Garashi's fighting style, they should have been poisoned to death long ago. However, not only did he not show any signs of being poisoned, even the wounds caused by the poison needles had healed, and his opponent didn't even have time to perform any hand seals to heal him. Scorpion sighed softly, "Seems like this is the real reason why you're using Sage Mode?" Garashi laughed, "You saw through me." He chose to enter Sage Mode, not only to increase his strength, but also because of the characteristics of Sage Mode. Although the Sage Mode of the Shikatsu Forest was not as flashy as the other 2 Holy Lands, it came with self-healing and anti-poison characteristics, which directly offset the advantage of the puppets by more than half. In a sense, he was the nemesis of these puppet masters. On the other side, seeing that Garashi had already destroyed more than 10 puppets, while they were still being pestered by the remaining 10 puppets, Shashur and the others were ashamed. Healing, perception, and fighting were all taken care of by Garashi, an outsider. It made them look like they were all useless. Pakura also secretly sighed. She originally wanted to compete with Garashi, but now it seems that her so-called Sand Crypsis hero was indeed far inferior to Garashi, the Woodleaf hero. At this time, Scorpion took out a scroll from behind him. "Sigh, I didn't want to use him. After all, if word of this spread, it would be more troublesome to deal with the other Kage. So, please go to hell when you see him." Chapter 176. He still has a trump card? Zhong Liang and the others swallowed their saliva secretly. When did the geniuses of Sand Crypsis become so powerful? If it wasn't for Garashi, they might not even be able to block the enemy's first wave of attack. Speaking of which, it took me a lot of effort to kill him. Sasori opened the scroll, and the next moment, a tall figure appeared in front of everyone. "Come on, my favorite collection, the 3rd Kazekage."
Seeing this scene, several Chunin were so scared that they even dropped their kunai to the ground. The third Kazekage. He said that he killed the third Kazekage, is it true? Unforgivable, absolutely unforgivable. He dared to kill the Kazekage, this is no longer a simple act of betrayal. Seeing how angry they were, Shushi was secretly delighted. This was exactly the reaction he had been waiting for. Only with their testimonies would his words be credible. Such a scandal, presumably San Crypsis can't ignore it. While Garashi was secretly planning, a group of San Crypsis ninjas were also angry, and what followed was infinite shock. The third Kazekage was known as the strongest Kazekage in history, and Sasori was only 15 years old 2 years ago. Such a strong contrast made their brains almost stop working. What kind of talent is it to kill the strongest Kazekage at the age of 15? Thinking of this, their hearts were full of regret. If Sasori didn't betray and didn't kill the Kazekage with his talent, he may have led San Crypsis to become stronger. Zhongliang asked with red eyes, "Why did you kill the Kazekage?" Sasori replied indifferently. "Because he was incompetent." San said angrily, "The third Kazekage is the strongest Kazekage in history, how can he be incompetent?" In Sasori's view, the village Kage couldn't protect the village and caused his parents to be killed, this is the greatest incompetence. However, he didn't intend to explain so much to them. "Oh, you can think of it as me testing my capacity." Although they still wanted to say something, Sasori didn't intend to waste his breath with them. "Since you're so angry, dying under the Kazekage's ability is a good choice for you." Seeing a large amount of iron sand condense in the sky, the few of them broke out in cold sweat. "How is that possible? You can even use the abilities of the third generation? Why are puppets able to use bloodline limits?" Of course their fears were unfounded. Scorpion did not take out his trump card to deal with small fries like them. Magnetic release, iron sand time rain. Iron sand poured down from the sky like ocean waves. There were so many of them and they covered such a large area that it was almost impossible to dodge. Immortal technique, slug body. The thin iron needles shot into Garashi's body, but in the next moment, those iron needles pierced through Garashi's back as if they had shot into a body made of water. Even the toxins on the iron sand were absorbed. Then Hatue. Seeing Garashi spitting, Sasori decisively controlled the Kazekage to condense an iron sand wall in front of him. However, the wall made of iron sand was instantly corroded and a big hole appeared. What a strong corrosive ability. Sasori sighed in his heart, then raised his hands and sprayed 2 violent flames from his palms. Flame prison formation. Sasori used the flames from the scroll on his back. The temperature was high enough to melt rocks and vaporize the sprayed acid in an instant. The acid mist spread out as if it was a protective barrier for Sasori. Where it touched, even the rocks and sand were corroded. Sandstone and the others, who were still struggling with the puppets, were so scared that they retreated. However, Garashi was unimpeded in the acid mist and rushed to Sasori's position. Magnetic release, iron sand barrier. The dense iron sand filled the sky and attacked the enemies inside the barrier indiscriminately. The range was large, the speed was fast, and the frequency was high. This was the strongest attack in the Kazekage's hand. He once relied on this attack to kill hundreds of enemies in an instant. However, Garashi didn't even have the slightest change in expression. He let the iron thorns penetrate his body and then suppressed the Kazekage. Seeing this, Sasori was a little tired. Physical attack is ineffective? Poison is ineffective? Sandame Kazekage's strongest physical attack and his strongest poison attack seemed weak in front of this opponent. This was the first time he had encountered an enemy who was so difficult to deal with and who had the ability to counter him. Even if he faced the other Kage of the other villages, he wouldn't be so tired. However, I heard that Sage Mode has a time limit. As long as I can survive this period, victory will still belong to me. Zhong Liang and the others were even more dumbfounded. They knew that Garashi was fierce, but even the Kazekage was beaten. Isn't this too fierce? They really couldn't connect the previous gentle and modest boy with the ferocious monster who beat the Kage of the other villages. Seeing this, they couldn't help but secretly think. He's called Woodleaf Tiger by the people of Kirin, it's not without reason. But when Sasori thought that Garashi could defeat him, Garashi also secretly sighed. Sasori's state seems to be just right to restrain his genjutsu. Most of Sasori's body was transformed into a puppet. He has almost no superfluous emotions, even close to a cold dead thing. In this case, even Garashi's genjutsu is difficult to work. Of course it's not completely impossible. As long as it's not a real puppet, there must be a hole in his heart.
It's just that Garashi didn't intend to really kill Sasori, so he pretended not to know the opponent's flaw. Even my genjutsu didn't work on you. Is your heart made of stone? While beating up the Kazekage, Rinsei was still surprised. That's what I want to say. Is your body made of stone? Seeing the Kazekage being violently dismantled, Sasori was a little depressed. This was his most perfect collection. Acid finger gun. While Sasori was distracted, Garashi's index fingertip suddenly shot a bullet like acid liquid. Because Garashi has been fighting with the Kazekage and attacked from Sasori's blind spot, when Sasori reacted, it was too late for him to dodge. He could barely avoid the attack. Sasori's perfect body was instantly pierced, leaving a terrible hole in his left shoulder blade. While suppressing the Kazekage, he still has the strength to attack me. What kind of monster is this guy? Even with Sasori's almost absolutely rational heart, he was a little scared at this moment. Fortunately, after Garashi used this attack, the lines in the corner of his eyes began to dissipate at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing this scene, Sasori chuckled softly. Next, it seems that it's my turn to counterattack. Before his voice fell, Garashi clapped his hands. Sorry, you may have to wait a little longer. The smile on Sasori's face froze. Chapter 177. At this moment, Sasori's heart was full of question marks. The stronger the effect, the greater the restriction. Like Garashi's all-round buff, there is no weakness after using it, and even after using it he can still enter Sage mode continuously. It is simply outrageous. This is obviously unreasonable, isn't it? What? His 100 machine drill is also a cheat? Chakra made from a small piece of flesh can control hundreds of puppets, and the third Kazekage puppet is also a cheat? Oh, that's all right. Sasori's eyes returned to calmness. As expected of the hero of Woodleaf, this battle with you is even more difficult than the assassination of the third Kazekage 2 years ago. Zhong Liang and others were depressed, although they were happy to see Sasori's defeat. Every time Sasori's defeat is based on the third Kazekage's dignity being trampled on. This is very embarrassing. Garashi naturally won't let him destroy the friendly relationship between himself and the Sand Crypsis companions. You also said that it was an assassination. Under normal circumstances, of course, I am far from being the opponent of the Kazekage-sama. Sasori's mouth twitched slightly. Before you say this, can you first return the left arm of the third Kazekage that was torn off? Although I don't want to admit it, but I really can't defeat you now. With that, Sasori turned his eyes to Zhong Liang and others. In this case, I have to change my strategy. Looking at Sasori's cold eyes, the Sand Crypsis members felt a chill in their hearts. Although Sasori can only be beaten in front of Garashi, for them, he is a strong person that they can never reach. Hurry up and run. I'll stop him. Shushi shouted. Hearing Garashi's voice, everyone suddenly woke up. Running away is very shameful, but they will only add trouble to Garashi if they stay here. Don't think about running away, Iron Sand Barrier. The third Kazekage opened his iron sand wings and flew to the sky, shooting countless iron thorns from above. Triple Rashomon. At Shushi's command, 3 Hell's Gates appeared out of nowhere and blocked all of the spikes. Looking at the battered Hell's Gate, Zhong Liang and the others breathed a sigh of relief. We're saved. As expected of the Kazekage-sama's technique, it's too strong. Seeing that they didn't forget to save their dignity at this time, Pakura angrily said, Run. Don't get in the way here. The Rashomon can't be moved, so the Kazekage only needs to pass through them from the sky. The most troublesome thing is that it is difficult for them to attack the Kazekage in the sky. What are you going to do now? Scorpion chuckled. Unlike before, he was worried about the puppets that were destroyed by Garashi, so he made the Kazekage give up his air superiority and become a close guard to protect his safety. Now, he no longer intended to be stingy with those ordinary puppets. Even if Garashi kills one in a second, it will take more than a minute to get close to him, and that time is enough for the Kazekage to kill those small fish ninjas 100 times. If Garashi chooses to protect those small fish ninjas, that would be even better. As long as he exhausts their chakra, he can easily harvest the perfect material. But at this time, Pakura's voice sounded. Garashi-sama, leave this to me. Pakura-sama, the extreme temperature can melt these iron sand in an instant. Although I am not the opponent of the previous Kazekage, I should be able to stop him for a while. Pakura firmly looked at the Kazekage in the sky. I bet on the name of the Sand Crypsis, I will not let the glory of the Kazekage be blasphemed by such a traitor. I understand. Garashi calmed down and looked at Sasori, who was protected by layers of puppets. Are you ready to be smashed into pieces? Garashi put his right hand into the tool bag, grabbed a shuriken and threw it to the opposite side. Because the previous enemy was the Kazekage who controlled the magnet release Kekkei Genkai, he didn't use the shuriken to locate his coordinates. Now he can start killing unscrupulously. Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Sasori naturally quickly thought of the other party's famous ability and hurriedly controlled the puppets to break the shuriken. Unfortunately, he was still a step too late. Garashi directly teleported to the shuriken closest to Sasori, which was equivalent to crossing half of the human wall in an instant. The surrounding puppets fiercely attacked Garashi, and all kinds of ninjutsu poured on Garashi. Obviously, Sasori also knew that physical attacks and poison attacks were ineffective against Garashi. Even if he used the release jutsu he wasn't good at, he could only bite the bullet. However, Garashi's application of the release jutsu was far above him. As soon as he saw the seals of those puppets, he understood Sasori's plan and hid in the ground in advance. Garashi calculated the time and jumped to the ground at the moment when the various water, fire, and wind jutsu disappeared and rushed to the puppets like a tiger in a flock of sheep. Looking at Garashi punching one puppet, Sasori's eyebrows jumped wildly. After this battle, his collection would be reduced by at least 5 years. No, if this continued he might even be beaten to a pulp. It seems that I can only do it myself. Two-sword flow, spiral slash. Sasori seized the opportunity. While Garashi was surrounded by other puppets, he grabbed the 2 spiral slashes behind him and slashed at Garashi. He was different from those weak puppeteers. He had cultivated body arts, and he had even modified his body into the strongest weapon. Even in close combat he was still. Shushi grabbed the spiral slash and pulled hard. Scorpion was pulled into the air by the steel cable. Then, like a meteor hammer, Shushi slammed Scorpion into the ground. Boom. The ground trembled heavily, and Sasori felt that his body was about to fall apart. Too careless. Although his body suffered heavy damage, Sasori didn't panic. He thought to himself, although my body is stronger, it seems that I can't compare with him in terms of use. Maybe I should give up attack and focus on defense. Thinking of this, Sasori no longer hesitated and directly recalled the third Kazekage. Want to escape? Garashi shouted coldly. Are you sure you don't want to save her? That Sand Crypsis ninja is not a monster immune to poison like you. Sasori calmly asked. Garashi turned his head and found that Pakura had fallen to the ground, and he didn't know whether she was dead or alive. When he looked back, Sasori had jumped on the third Kazekage's back and recovered the broken puppets through the chakra line. But because of the influence of the third Kazekage's magnetic force, his smooth operation was a little sluggish. My previous evaluation was wrong. Even if there is no Kekkei Genkai, you are more perfect than the third Kazekage. Sasori manipulated the third Kazekage to fly to the sky. The next time we meet, I will capture you. Garashi didn't care about Sasori's words at all. After all, their intelligence was completely different. If he really wanted to kill Sasori, it would be almost effortless. As long as he dragged Sasori into the illusion of his parents and took advantage of the moment when he was absent-minded, he would be able to break his regenerative nucleus. The next time we meet, I'm looking forward to talking with you about regenerative nucleus technology. Garashi shook his head and smiled, turned and walked toward Pakura. Chapter 178. She's badly injured. Shushi checked Pakura's wounds, then frowned and started treating her. In all fairness, Pakura's strength wasn't weak. She couldn't even last a minute because the Kazekage was too strong. After being made into a puppet, although it's a bit less flexible and conscious, various mechanisms and poisons can completely make up for the shortcomings. It's a pity that these methods are ineffective against him. Garashi Jonin, Pakura-sama. Seeing the iron sand disappear from the sky, the Sand Crypsis ninjas who were struggling for a while quietly rushed back. Then they saw a shocking scene in front of them. There were puppet wreckage everywhere, the ground was torn apart, and the molten iron sand flowed on the ground. What's even more shocking is that Pakura was stabbed into a hedgehog on the ground. Seeing their worried look, Garashi comforted them. Don't worry, there are a lot of toxins in her body, but it's not long, it's easy to remove them. Hearing Garashi's words, everyone was relieved. That's good, that's good. Seeing that they seemed to be at a loss, Garashi smiled. If I were you, I would go and count the spoils now.
Although there are only some wreckage left with Sasori's strength, even if it's just a defective product, it should be worth a lot. Zhong Liang and the others' eyes lit up. As long as they say that Sasori manipulated 100 puppets, even if it's just some wreckage, it will definitely be bought by those crazy puppeteers at a high price. However, they were a little embarrassed. We didn't do anything, these spoils should belong to you, Garashi Jonin. Garashi didn't care. I'm a woodleaf ninja, what do I need these puppets for? Zhong Liang and the others looked at each other, then happily picked up the trash. Half a day later, everyone appeared in front of the gate of the San Crypsis village with big and small bags. Seeing everyone return, the ninja on duty immediately came down to open the door, then looked at Pakura who was on Garashi's shoulder and exclaimed, "What happened to Pakura-sama?" "He's injured but he should be fine now." Garashi answered concisely and immediately asked, "Where is Kazekage-sama? We have something to report to him." "Kazekage-sama might be in the Kazekage building right now." Kazekage building. Luo Sha's face was cold. "What did you say? Even the people of the country of rain dare to invade our San Crypsis?" Hai Laozong sighed. "It's most likely because we're only defending against the Rock Crypsis invasion without retaliating." The rest of the Jonins didn't have a good look on their faces. It's one thing to give in to Rock Crypsis, but who does Hidden Rain think they are? Raza frowned. Although he was not afraid of the Rain Country, what if this was a trap set by the Rock Crypsis? "Why don't you just continue to be a grandson?" Just as he was hesitating, a report came from outside. "Kazekage-sama, Pakura-sama and Special Envoy Garashi have returned." Raza, who had been worrying about not having an excuse to delay, suddenly laughed. Let's go take a look." However, someone was faster than him. Seeing that Chio had disappeared from her seat, Raza couldn't help but sigh. "I hope there won't be a fight." But at this moment, a loud shout came from the outside. "Elder Chio, do you want to kill us to silence us?" Seeing that the development of the situation seemed to be a bit wrong, Raza and the others hurriedly went out. "Silence us." Chio was puzzled, but Sand and the others also stood up and angrily accused. "Elder Chio, was that matter really instigated by you?" "Too despicable, so Elder Chio is this kind of person." They were already angry at Sasori for trying to assassinate the Kazekage, and now that they were saved by Shushi, they naturally stood on Shushi's side with righteous indignation. Of course they wouldn't say the truth in public. Even so, Raza and the others were still confused when they came out. Half an hour later in the conference room, all the Jonins looked like they had seen a ghost. The Kazekage was assassinated by Sasori? That bastard also made the previous Kazekage into a puppet? Impossible, he was only 15 years old 2 years ago. Are you kidding me? He can control hundreds of puppets at the same time? Raza rubbed his eyebrows, wondering if it was because he had worked too late yesterday and still hadn't woken up yet. Chio stood to the side in a daze. Human puppet? In the end you still came to this step. Quiet down. Raza raised his right hand and then looked at Zhong Liang. Are you sure that Sasori assassinated the Kazekage? Zhong Liang nodded heavily. Sasori said it himself and he said it was to test his own strength. Raza said angrily. Just for this ridiculous reason he assassinated the Kazekage? It's unforgivable. A Jonin couldn't help but ask. Can Sasori really control hundreds of puppets at the same time? San said in a deep voice. Not only that, but he can control so many puppets at the same time without any blockage. Everyone took a breath of cold air. Why do they feel that no one in the entire San Crypsis can be Sasori's opponent? Raza was puzzled. Since he's so strong, how did you escape? Zhong Liang said truthfully. Garashi defeated Sasori and we escaped. Sandrock added, Shursui Shinobi defeated Sasori's puppet army by himself, and he even pinned the Kazekage-sama to the ground and beat him. As his voice fell, the conference room instantly exploded. Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. I know, it must be a puppet transformed by Sasori, and it doesn't even have 10% of the strength of the Kazekage when he was alive. Rationally, they were unwilling to accept that the strongest Kazekage in history was defeated by a young woodleaf ninja. Zhong Liang sighed. It's true, the puppet Kazekage not only retained the Kazekage's magnet release Kekkei Genkai, but also modified many mechanisms and poisons. Its strength may be more terrible than the original Kazekage. Sandrock said. Pakura-sama fought against the puppet Kazekage after being severely injured by Garashi. In the end, she didn't even last a minute. This time no one said anything. They knew Pakura's strength.
Although she was a hero of Sand Crypsis, she was definitely a strong jonin. But even so, she was defeated by the puppet Kazekage in less than a minute. This can only mean that the Garashi jonin is really strong. After a long while, someone said awkwardly, "Ah, the Kazekage-sama is really strong." Everyone looked at him sadly. No matter how strong he was, wasn't he easily beaten by the Woodleaf Ninja? They were both geniuses, but the Woodleaf genius helped the village reverse the war, while the Sand Crypsis genius directly killed the village's Kage. What's even more depressing is that the Sand Crypsis genius still couldn't beat the opponent. Seeing that the Sand Crypsis confidence was about to be shattered, Raza quickly changed the topic. Let's put Sasori's matter aside. The most important thing now is how to make the Garashi jonin help us keep the secret. The genius of the village assassinated the village's Kage. If this kind of scandal spread, it would undoubtedly be a huge blow to the unity and self-confidence of the Sand Crypsis. It's easy to make Zhongliang keep the secret. As for Sasori, he wasn't the kind of person who was high profile, and from his reaction this time, it seems that he didn't want the matter of the Kazekage to spread. Therefore, the only thing they had to consider was Shushi. But the problem is, how to stop Garashi's mouth? Assassination? A jonin just thought of this and trembled. With the strength of the Garashi jonin, it's possible that he could kill them all. Seduction? Raza just thought of this and shook his head. With the other party's popularity, it's more likely that he would use a beauty trap on the Sand Crypsis female ninja. Ah, this is difficult. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.